All right. If we could all rise for the pledge, please.
The dying breed buff says, you don't see the COVID kind of killed a lot.
How can you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Moment of silence for the men and women in the armed forces, our veterans, our first responders, those fighting the good fight in the Ukraine, and those 5 individuals that lost their lives in the submarine implosion next to the Titanic. Thank you.
Still nobody?
Okay. I'd like to read the legal notice, Town of New Milford, warning of a public hearing. Please take note that pursuant to sections 405, 406 of the Town Charter, the New Milford Town Council will hold a public hearing to hear public comment relating to the following proposed ordinance. Housing ordinance. It's proposed that the ordinance be added to the New Milford Code of Ordinances as authorized said charter, sections 405, 406, Chapter 98 of General Statutes. Said public hearing to be held, E. Paul Martin Room, New Milford, Town Hall, 10 Main Street, 6:45 p.m. Do we have anybody that would like to speak to? Oops. On behalf of the public hearing.
Are we correcting the name now?
We're going to correct it when we do the ordinance.
During the regular meeting?
The agenda, yes.
Okay.
Paul, do we have anybody for public hearing? Okay. I'd like to make a motion or entertain a motion that we close the public hearing.
I move that we close the public hearing. Fair.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, and we'll see everybody 7 p.m. for a regular town meeting,
Okay.
town council meeting.
So I think somebody is going to
For the pledge, please.
I haven't used that ever,
Okay.
but you're all set.
Tom, if you could lead us to the pledge, sir.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a moment of silence for the men and women in the armed forces, our veterans, our first responders, those fighting the good fight in Ukraine, and those 5 poor souls that lost their lives in the implosion of the submarine next to the Titanic. Thank you.
Creed and
Yep, if we could do the creed.
okay.
Katie?
Follow along if you like. Americans' Creed. I believe in the United States of America as a government of the people, by the people, for the people, whose just powers are derived from the consent of the governed, a democracy in a republic, a sovereign nation of many sovereign states, a perfect union, one and inseparable, established upon these principles of freedom, equality, justice, and humanity, for which American patriots sacrificed their lives and fortunes. I therefore believe it is my duty to my country to love it, to support its Constitution, to obey its laws, and to respect its flag, and to defend it against all enemies.
Thank you.
Swing.
Okay. Paul? Do you have anybody for public comment? Okay. No one public comment. Katie?
I'd like to suspend the rules to add item 5A, which is the B City Resolution for discussion and possible action.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Okay. Item 4, I'd like to move that we accept items 4A, B, and C of the consent agenda.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I would just like to say, item 4C, Parks and Rec would like to thank the following donors that helped with the 8-mile and 5K road races. That would be Yardscapes, New Vance Health, Walmart gift cards, Big Y gift cards, 5 vouchers from BD Provisions, and some gift cards from Good Eats Restaurant and Bar.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion?
I have an edit to the minutes.
Okay.
It said, Mr. M thanked the board for meeting in the middle and appreciated the new plan. She said the town and the board needs to hold themselves accountable. I said the town needs to hold ourselves accountable and make sure we have a way to do that. So I didn't say both. I just said the town. I could give you this if you want. Okay.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Okay. And one thing, I'm sorry, I forgot to read this, back to this motion I just made, that the Parks and Rec is requesting that the monetary donations be deposited into the recreation revenue account, which is number 1045050444709. That's the recreation revenue account. Stephanie, if you could add that.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Item 5A, mayor's comments?
Thank you,
Five,
Katie.
excuse me.
Thank you, Katie. First of
glasses
all,
on.
we had our graduation of the Milford High School this past Saturday, so congratulations to our class of 2023. And I attended the graduation. I wanted to thank our principal, Manka. He was the master of ceremonies. The band did a phenomenal job. That was led by band director David Sistek. I mean, they do great all the time. Champions, you know. Landon Tanon did the Pledge of Allegiance. The Star Spangled Banner was performed by the band. And Miss Daya Suskamarian, I'm probably mispronouncing her name, I apologize. Greetings to the seniors was by Mr. Arcanatis of the Milford High School faculty. And the honor essay was done by Eva McDermott. Very, very good. Speeches were done by the salutatorian Isabel Delpha and the valedictorian Connor Sterling. And then they did an excellent rendition of I Lived by the New Milford High School Advanced Chorus, which is directed by Miss Rebecca Rosen. And then Dr. Parlato did the presentation of the class of 2023. And then Jake Coloniglio, I'm probably mispronouncing it, right? Okay, I did it right, all right. He did turning of the tassels. And then after that, I want to thank the New Milford Grad Party Committee, the volunteers and sponsors, as they put on a wonderful party they do for all of our seniors that night to make sure they're safe, and they have them there until about 5 o'clock in the morning, so I want to thank them for being there. Also want to congratulate the Litchfield Hills Transition Center, their graduates, which was Sebi, Connor, Damon, Ethan, and Jeremy. And thank you to the LHTC teachers, Roxanne, Larry, and Dawn. I was at the graduation. It was great. Dr. Parlato was there. You had Laura Olson there, all of the staff, and it was just great to see the graduation from those students. Also, we had a lot of graduations, right? We had our adult education graduation as well, and they also have members that came now with the new National Honor Society induction with the adult ed, so they did that as well. And Christy Martin does a phenomenal job, as we all know, for the adult education, and all the teachers and all of the staff that helps with that program as well. And they did a phenomenal job. One of the cool things, getting back to Litchfield Hills Transition, I love their, we have some of them interning here, and their whole kind of mantra, which I thought is so cool. I mean, it's like for everyday life, not just for those participating in the transition school, is the ability to be dedicated, happy, hardworking, successful, and dependable. That says it all.
Good,
It's
yeah.
pretty cool,
Yeah.
right?
Good life if
Excellent.
we do that.
Want to congratulate a New Milford Special Olympics athlete, Kelly Schneider. She competed in bowling
Yeah.
at the Special Olympics World Games in Berlin, right? And she won a gold medal in the women's unified team competition, a bronze medal in the unified doubles competition, 5th place ribbon in the singles competition. So great job to her, representing New Milford in the United States. Outstanding. I want to congratulate Susan Grizzle and Flora Kwame, as they are our 2023 New Milford Da Vinci Award recipients that we had here at Town Hall. And Susan and Flora, they show the true spirit of our wonderful community and everything that they do and their volunteerism. And they're giving before self, which is truly amazing. And we can't thank them enough for all that they do. And I'd also like to thank Mr. Coppola and Katie, yourself, as you spearhead the Da Vinci Awards each and every year, so thank you. And also want to thank the Arts Commission, as they played an important role in bringing forth Susan, so great. I also want to congratulate players and coaches of the New Milford Greenway flag football teams. The Browns, they were the high school champions, and then we had the Cowboys, I hate to say that, 11 and 14-year-old divisional champions. We had the Raiders that were the 8 and 10-year-old champions, and just a great endeavor. There's over 300, I believe, over 330 kids that were playing flag football this year. So a great number of kids got out, learned a little more about the game, got some exercise, and it was great. So thank you to the players, the sponsors, the coaches. Yeah,
That's like
it's amazing.
triple the amount, isn't it?
Amazing for flag. It's great.
I can't imagine
Great
how
to
they
see.
find enough time for all those kids to play, enough space.
Also, want to wish Chaden Prasant, Angelo Fernandez, and Jameer Witherspoon. I went down to the Max and congratulated them, as they are going to be joining our armed forces. So Chaden is going to go to the Navy, Angelo's going to the Army, and Jameer is going to the Navy. So we wish them well, Godspeed, as they now graduated New Milford High School, and now they're going to go on to the armed forces. So congratulate to them. On the 16th, attended the New Milford High School Varsity Awards, and congratulations to all the players this year that made in the spring that made varsity. And thank you to Athletic Director Keith Lipinski, Principal Manka, all the coaches and the staff. And want to congratulate all those people, including Jason Alfano and Jack Balsey. They made all-state status 2 years in a row, which is a pretty amazing feat to do it 2 years in a row, so outstanding. And, it's great to see those banners still going up at the high school, so congratulations to them. Also want to congratulate Troop 158. They have new senior patrol leaders, Jared and assisted senior patrol leader Brett, and they'll be serving the troop. And I want to congratulate the new younger patrol leaders, which is Oliver and Caleb. And as we talk about here, it's great to see the number of Eagle Scouts that we have here in New Milford. This last year alone, I think we had 8 new Eagle Scouts. So as we know, it's less than 1% of Scouts become Eagle Scouts. It's a tremendous accolade, and you can see the troops continue to flourish here. So that's great. So thank you to them. Also want to thank the Garden Club, President Kathy Behringer, and chairwoman of the Blue Star event, which was Jan Parsons, and the entire club. If you go right outside in front of Town Hall, we now have the new Blue Star Memorial marker, and they did an outstanding job. Can't thank them enough. And this is one of the things that they did representing their 100 years as a garden club, and it's a beautiful testament to our armed forces. And what was great is we had 4 World War II veterans that were there that day. Charles Chapin, U.S. Army; Gordon Hills, U.S. Navy; George Pooter, U.S. Army; George Snyder, Army Air Force. And a couple of them are over 100 years old.
Yep.
And the other 2 are in their late 90s. So it was amazing that they were here. We honored them, and the greatest generation that we've ever had, and we wanted to thank them for all they did, and it was great. I know, Councilman, you were there as well, and it was great to see people there. So thank you to our garden club. I also want to thank Bryce Matthews. He's, for those that don't know, he's a lifeguard at Lendeming, and he saved a young girl who tried to swim to the boat docks. And for some people that aren't really strong swimmers, it's farther than you think. I know Dan's there, and Bryce saw that, went out, and as the girl was in the throes of drowning, grabbed her, brought her back, and great news. We didn't need any kind of medical assistance or anything. He got her right in time, and it's just quick thinking that we have right down at those lifeguards that do amazing things there. So thank you to Bryce. Also want to thank the Girl Scouts at Troop 40297 that were here last month, as they got awarded their silver certificates and their silver badges for their helping with the Bee City, and creating the awareness and importance of the pollinators in our environment. Also want to thank the entire committee. Nick Pooter is the chair. Jack is representative of the town department that needed to be kind of the sponsor, and that was our Public Works. And tonight, the reason why we added it was Jack had informed me they wanted us to do a different a resolution rather than a proclamation. So tonight, with your approval, we'll do that, and then that gets us to Bee City, right, Jack? Yep. Outstanding. And also want a special thanks, as we all know, to Jack's daughter, Brooke, because she's the one that initially talked to us about this and how great it would be. And I know, Jack, she's going to come down to Town Hall, but she's doing amazing things up north, and we can't thank her enough for that. Changing real quick to some infrastructure things that's going on here. The Hind Hill and Grove Street intersections, and also the Fordyce Road and Grove Street. We've all known that there's been some accidents there. We talked about getting some additional engineering services, more specialized. We've awarded that to KS Engineers. And Jack, you figured by what, end of September, they should give us some kind of analysis?
Yeah, they've already started. You'll probably see the counters out there, and they expect to be done probably early to late September.
And then once we get those, we'll bring that back to the council so we can update the council on what their thoughts are as far as that. On the New Milford High School, the large and small gym, we did appropriate funding for the scraping and painting of those gyms. They're badly needed. That was awarded at the Purchasing Authority to Scholar Painting. And once they get going, we'll update the council to that as well. And also, we talked about the canopy, that where the buses drop off the kids. As you look up, that also is going to need to be repainted and to be scraped. And depending on the ending costs of this project, if the funds are available, that would be what we would be doing as well, as we all approved for. So we'll be updating the council when it comes to that. We are working with BOE Facilities, Matt Cunningham, with the actual dates now that we're getting into summertime, because the goal is to get the gym painted and redone as they're out of school, and then I'll be ready for school. We'll have a nice painted and redone gym, which would be great. And then I believe, Jack, in the next spring or summer, they're going to redo the floor, correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And they had problems actually securing somebody to do that this year,
Yeah,
right?
they went through the bidding process, and, yeah, the bids they got were much different than price-wise than we normally get.
Right, okay. Because I know the planning had always been, there was some conjecture that this part of the project was holding up the flooring, and that wasn't the case. It's just the cost factor came in too high on the flooring. Okay. Also, the Municipal Building Committee, which we'll be talking a little bit more about that tonight. Just wanted to give a little bit of an update of where we are, and Jack is here as well for any questions. They continue doing the drainage work there, correct, Jack?
Yep, they're working on the drains at the school. Almost all of the steel roof is installed. They'll be doing the flood coating. Well, they're starting by vacuuming off the flat roofs, then they'll be flood coating it and finishing that, and they just started doing that work. Well, if weather holds this week, they'll be doing that work.
And they also did the flashing around all the pipes to make sure that's all okay. They installed the termination bars at the wall flashing, installed the new wood blocking under the wall ladders.
Yeah.
And this was all on some of the stuff as was talked about at the last meeting that we had here. Some of this stuff was pre-existing the work, or we're trying to do it to make it so it lasts as well as the roof, correct?
Correct.
Also, we did some new pipe stacking, new flashing around there as well. Jack?
Yeah, they've been going around anything that's on a horizontal surface is being reflashed, sealed, checked. So if it's on one of the horizontal surfaces, when the contractor's done, it will have been inspected and either upgraded, flashed, and checked.
And then, as we talked about at the last meeting, when we were doing the kind of the work, and we had the Steve Patello from the manufacturer was talking about the pins that were in the standing seam, which is 2 pins per board.
Yeah.
And we have noticed that in some of those that have been 1. And as we all know, the fire, we terminated the employment of the first contractor. And so the bonding company of the first contractor pretty much is the financier, and they're the ones that were the ones that recommended the new company, Greenwood, who's doing an outstanding job. But they have asked for us to look at the fact with engineering, correct, Jack? That would it still work with wind shear and everything else with 1 pin versus 2? And we've talked to, as the Municipal Building Committee, as the town itself, we've told Dean Petroselli with our town attorney, right, Randy, that it will be 2. That's what your contract is, and that's what you're gonna do. We're not gonna skimp, we're not gonna do any of that. You're gonna do 2. So if they have to replace some of these pads to put in 2, that's so be it. But I wanted to continue to fill in, and right now they're still trying to do their due diligence, correct, Jack?
Yeah, they're going through their engineering studies. They being the bonding company, has hired an engineering firm to do an analysis on the roof. And that's where we are right now.
And then we've also, and Randy can opine on it a little bit more as well, we also have a provision in the contract for damages. And right now we are working with town attorney and with the bonding council of talking about the fact of declaring damages that the town would hold on the contract. Can you speak a little? I know you can't talk much about it, but just a little bit about it.
It's our position that the bonding company is responsible for everything that the primary contractor would have been responsible for, including delay claims and including liquidated damages. So that's what we're working on now. We don't have a meeting of the minds yet, obviously, because they don't want to write any more checks, but that's our position. Jack, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and I think it's sustainable. But we would like to do this on a resolution basis rather than a litigation basis, if we can avoid it. And that's
Thank you.
about what I could say.
Thank you, Randy. Moving on to the New Milford Police Department. Get a lot of conjecture, especially when we are putting out through Notified New Milford, the accidents in real time, and give you a chance to change your route or look at things. And some people think that there's way more accidents than what there was before. So moving forward, we're going to put out weekly statistics. So in talking with the chief, motor vehicles, we're going to start with stops. Motor vehicle stops in the year 2022, they did 859. In 2023, so far, we've done 975. That's 116 stops more than this time last year, which is up 12%. As far as motor vehicle accidents, and we've broken these out, not only those on the road, but we have quite a few of them that are in parking lots as well. So motor vehicle accidents in the year 2022, between now and this time last year, was 447. This year, there's 413. There were 63 last year that were in parking lots this time last year, 68 of which were in parking lots this year. If you add them both up, combined, it's a reduction of 8%, a reduction of 34 accidents so far. Now, one accident's one accident too many. But the fact is they're trending down, and that's at least a good sign. What are the things are we continuing to do? We continue to look at traffic calming measures, as we talked about at the last meeting. So we're waiting for Connecticut Department of Transportation to issue school zones in all of our schools, high school being the main component there on Route 7. Also, we're looking at lighting up Route 7 from where the industrial condos are, right south of the school, all the way up to Veterans Bridge. So we're working with Connecticut DOT, and they're actually doing a study on that right now about lighting that up. Also working with our state senator, Harding, and also working with our representatives about getting an additional light, as we keep talking about it, at the condo complex. And we're continuing to work with DOT, but it does take quite some time, unfortunately, to do that. Also, the chief wanted to let us know that the cadets program continues to be very robust and good. They've added a few more cadets. They're doing some great activities this summer. And that the new Citizens Academy class will be starting in August. And for those that haven't been through the class, it's a great opportunity to see what the New Milford Police Department does, how the officers react with the public, and all sorts of things, whether it's running radar, whether it's bringing things in-house, how you do fingerprinting, all that kind of cool stuff. So if you're interested, please reach out to the New Milford Police Department and see if you can get involved. Moving forward to East Street School. So the Board of Education had said that we would be giving the keys over to the town on the 30th, which is a Friday. I talked to Dr. Parlato. I'll actually be getting the keys tomorrow. We've also, Jack already got on July 3rd. We have the vendor coming in to do some assessments, air quality, and to do some other assessments, which we'll bring forward to the town council, and we'll be working on that. We'll also be going to be doing tours for the town council, the Board of Finance, and then we're going to be doing tours for the public. So the public can come in and take a look and see their school. And then we're going to be doing in August 1 of 3, which is going to be a public hearing on East Street School, so we can hear from the public what they think would be a good use of it, and what they think about it. I know, Jack, we're working with Dean Petroselli to come up with some costs that will be associated to bringing up this building to compliance, and we'll be bringing that forward to the town council and the Board of Finance when that will be completed as well. And then lastly, and I know Greg will be talking about this much more than I will during Mayor's comments, is we sat down with the bonding agencies, Moody's, and we talked to them because we're going to be going out to bond next month. and they gave us the same rating as they did before. Very stable. They liked, and I'm not going to take Greg's thunder away, but it was another good meeting that we have, and we're excited to be able to do that. As far as roads, we're continuing to work on Candlewood Lake Road North and Mockingbird, putting on the top course due to the weather. Once the weather gets a little better, we'll be doing that. We're then going to be doing some additional drainage work up on Bear Hill, on all the bears, correct, Jack? Yep. We're also going to be going over to, I believe, Erickson Road, right, Jack? Oh, Buckingham, sorry, Buckingham Road. Just doing that just to mess with you, Pat. And that started, they did some drainage work, and then they're going to be moving over to there and getting that taken care of and done. And then after that, ones that are still going to be worked on this year, Old Northville Road, Burnett Road. We're going to be doing some on Greenview Road. Did we do some of that already, Jack, Greenview? I thought we did.
We did some on that. We're going to finish up this, yep.
And we'll continue to talk a little bit more about those projects as we move forward. For those that haven't seen or driven down Grove Street, we did the rubber chip seal, which is a new application, new to New Milford. I think that turned out exceptionally well. And I know Jack can talk a little bit more about that, but that's something we may be using even more on road courses that helps drive down the cost. And as we said, continues to bring additional value and lifespan of the roads that we're doing now. Correct, Jack? Jack?
If I
Chris?
might, I
Absolutely.
drove down shortly after it was laid down and was really amazed the minimal amount of loose stone. I had to slow down, which is not a bad thing, but I was really impressed with it. It was very good.
This afternoon I came back from Danbury, and it is smooth as glass.
Very bouncy,
Very nice.
just saying.
And then as far as bridges, Upland Road, they're continuing on that. They didn't work on it today, obviously, because of the weather. And then, Jack, what's the tentative time for completion on that project?
Every time is this fall, October. Yeah, right now they're, knock on wood, they've been making good time. We've only had one glitch and we seem to work through that. So it's going along pretty well.
And then lastly, the events that we're having, we had the Rock the Block the other day. It's very, very successful. We're continuing on July 1st, that's this Saturday. We're having music on the bandstand in the morning, which will be the Blue Yodels. And we have the Farmers Market, that's from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. So for those that haven't gone down there, it's a great chance to get some wonderful produce, breads. You've got dog treats, flowers, you have soaps, you have some great pies, you've got some good pastas, all sorts of good stuff there. Great chance to go down and check that out. While you're down here or anywhere else, come see our shops, our award-winning restaurants. Then at dusk on Saturday is the New Milford Fireworks Celebration. So anywhere in the downtown area, you can come check out these fireworks. Thank you to the Chamber. The Women's Club's going to do their flag cake as they do every year, so that'll be pretty cool as well. And that starts at dusk. On July 8th, again, we have the Farmers Market, and Don Lowe will be doing the music. At 6 p.m. on the 8th, we're having the Connecticut Militia's first home football game. So that's our semi-pro team that plays here in New Milford.
And that'll be held
And
on
it'll be
where?
held at the high school, and kickoff is at 6 p.m. Also on the 8th at 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at Pettibone is the Wheels for Wheels car show. Sean Quigg and his nonprofit do a great job there, and all those proceeds go to help those that need ADA compliant either equipment or sporting things.
Yeah.
He's also done some with our wonderful businesses that need ADA compliant. He did some down on entrances.
Yeah.
He did some on Railroad Street a couple years ago. Also, on the 9th is Evolve Presents. They're going to do free community yoga. Sorry. Take a yogurt.
Not
Yeah, I know.
another ice cream place.
As I'm saying. They're having that from 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. right on the middle of the green. So if you're interested in yoga, please come down and check that out. Then on the 20th, they're having 6:30, the third Rock the Block, which will be Nashville Drive,
Yep.
which is country, And they played last year phenomenal. So if you get a chance, bring, a lawn chair, relax, enjoy some great music that's going to be there. And then on July 22nd and 23rd, the gates are going to open at 10 a.m. at Candlelight Farms for the Colonial Concours d'Elegance Car Show. So it has those amazing, old cars, those antique Porsches.
Some very fancy
They're going to have some
cars.
antique planes there. They're going to have music. Going to be a great event, so definitely if you get a chance, come and check that out. Then on the 22nd as well will be the second home game for the Connecticut Militia, 6 p.m. kickoff at the high school. Then on the 22nd, Farmers Market, again from 9 to noon. And then on the 22nd, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. is the Litchfield Artisan Festival. And I was talking to John Whitman, and the Whitmans are running this festival. They've got over 80 artisans that are going to be there. So it's kind of like the old village village fair days.
Yes, real makers.
It's going to be great. Real people, real makers that come down, make these particular things. It's going to be great to see and a wonderful time. Lots of music will be there as well. Then on the 29th, the Connecticut Militia will have their third kickoff home game. July 29th, we have the Farmers Market. And then on the 29th as well, from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m., the Commission of the Arts is bringing back their outdoor art festival. So that's going to be a great time. A lot of artists there. You can purchase some paintings. They're going to have some presentations. Great to see that. Music as well. So again, another wonderful event that'll be happening downtown. On the 29th at 8:30 a.m., Dan and his crew are going to be doing the Milford Road Race with a kids run too, right, Dan?
Brand new this year, yes.
So that'll be awesome. How many runners so far?
We have probably about, the numbers are slow right now, but at least 300 runners or more right now, but we're expecting a lot more.
It's going to be awesome. On July 29th as well, at 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Harrybrook is the Hog Wild Obstacle Course. On August 5th is the Edwin Kincaid. Now they're going to start, the Commission on the Arts, their concert series right on the green. That'll be Country Steel will start. That's at 7 p.m. Then on the 5th, Harrybrook Park is the Big Jeep thing. Then on August 11th, the Lions Club's going to do their Senior Citizens Picnic, which is always great. And you can pick up tickets at the Senior Center. On the 12th, at 7 p.m. is the Edwin Kincaid's second concert series, which will be Billy and the Showman. On the 12th, 6 p.m. kickoff is another Connecticut Militia home game, which would be great. And then they're going to do community on the 13th, community yoga again from 10:30 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. And then on the 17th, 6:30 p.m., another Rock the Block, and that'll be the Pop Rocks. And we've got lots and lots more that are going to be going through August and September, and I'll continue to update the council.
Can I add one of them, please?
Absolutely.
Please do.
July 22nd, the Litchfield County Irish American Club is sponsoring an annual Irish road bowling tournament.
Yes.
Nice.
And if you're not familiar with that, it's basically rolling a 28-ounce cannonball down the road.
Oh,
And
but it's so much
down a
more
mile
than that.
course,
So
and as
much
few
more
rolls
than
as
that.
possible.
Come on.
But
There's
it's the
finesse
22nd, and this year we have 50 teams, 200 bowlers, and we're raising money for a local family that's had significant hardships due to cancer. And so all the proceeds from the registration will go to that family. So
Amazing.
We're really looking forward to it.
Amazing. Thank you. That's great. All right. Thank you, Katie.
Okay. Item 5A, I'd like to move that we approve the B City resolution, or at least discussion and possible action on the B City resolution.
A resolution or proclamation?
It's a resolution.
No, it's a
now.
resolution.
Gotcha.
Thank you. If I could read it to the council. Resolution, whereas the mission of Bee City USA is to galvanize communities to sustain pollinators responsible for the reproduction of almost 90% of the world's flowering plant species by providing them with healthy habitat, rich in a variety of native plants, and nearly free of pesticides. And whereas thanks to the more than 3,600 species of native bees in the United States, along with introduced honeybees, we have a very diverse dietary choices in rich fruits, nuts, and vegetables. And whereas bees and other pollinators have experienced population declines due to a combination of habitat loss, poor nutrition, pesticides, including insecticides, fungicides, and herbicides, parasites, diseases, and climate change. And whereas pollinator-friendly communities can benefit local and regional economies through healthier ecosystems, increased vegetable and fruit crop yields, and increased demand for pollinator-friendly plant materials from local growers. And whereas the ideal pollinator-friendly habitat is comprised of mostly native wildflowers, grasses, vines, shrubs, and trees blooming in succession throughout the growing season to provide diverse and abundant nectar and pollen. Since many wild pollinators prefer to depend on native plants with which they co-adapted, is free to nearly free of pesticides, as many pesticides can harm pollinators and or their habitat. Also, the environment can comprise undisturbed spaces, which include leaf and brush piles, unmowed fields and field margins, fallen trees, and other dead wood for nesting and overwintering, and provides connectivity between habitat areas to support pollinator movement and resilience. Whereas integrated pest management, which is IPM, is a long-term approach to maintaining healthy landscapes and facilities that minimize risks to people and the environment by identifying and removing the causes of pest problems rather than only attacking the symptoms, which includes the pests, employing pest natural enemies along with cultural, mechanical, and physical controls when prevention is not enough, and using pesticides only when no other method is feasible and effective. And whereas supporting pollinators fosters broad-based community engagement in environmental awareness and sustainability. And whereas New Milford should be certified a Bee City USA community because of all of the actions that we have done when creating awareness through our Girl Scouts to populating pollinator gardens, both at the Patriots Way Railroad area, as well as the Triangle, as well as the area of the observatory and many other places. Now, therefore, in order to enhance understanding among local government staff and the public about the vital role that pollinators play and what each one of us can do to sustain them, New Milford chooses to support and encourage healthy pollinator habitat creation and enhancement, resolving as follows. The Public Works Department is hereby designated as the Bee City USA sponsor. The, what does that say there? The Public Works Director of the Public Works Department is designed as the Bee City USA liaison. The Bee City Committee is authorized to and shall celebration host at least one educational event or pollinator habitat planting and restoration each year to showcase New Milford's commitment to raising awareness of pollinator conservation and expanding pollinator health and habitat. Publicity and information. Install and maintain at least one authorized Bee City street sign in a prominent location. Create and maintain a website, which is on our website currently, which includes a minimum copy of the resolution and links to the National Bee City USA website. Habitat. Develop and implement a program to create and expand pollinator-friendly habitats on public and private land. Pollinator-friendly pest management. Create and adopt an integrated pest management plan and IPM designated to prevent pest problems. And these are all have already been done to get our status. And then renewal. After completing the first calendar year as a Bee City USA affiliate, each February apply for renewal New Milford's Bee City USA designation following the format provided by the Bee City USA. And if adopted tonight, we would put in today's date, both date, month, and year. I'll get you one with all the stuff in there, the name and everything. New Milford on it.
Okay, so you have a
Okay.
motion?
We have
and,
a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All's in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Jack will get that over to you. Thank you.
Item 6, I'd like to move that we approve the following Library Board of Trustee members. Rhonda Woods, term of June 26, 2023 through January 31st, 2026, and Jennifer Harrigan as an alternate Same June 26, 2023 to January 31st, 2026.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
I'd like to move that we appoint to the Zoning Board of Appeals the following filling a vacancy: Kelly Franzese, term of June 26th through November 7th of 2023.
And Kelly actually was the recording secretary for the Zoning Board of Appeals. She has dropped off as secretary to take this position. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Any? Okay.
Item number 7, this is a move to the
Reappoint.
reappointment of sub-registers of vital statistics. And now the term on here, Mayor, starts, was this when they were first, I know these are ongoing people, but it says 2019. So they did start in 2019?
Correct, and this is what was told for us to put this.
Yeah,
put
that's
these
what I
in.
thought. So we have Confessor Rodriguez Jr., term of June 26, 2019 to November 30th, 2023, and Amy Lynn Cassidy Stevens from June 26, 2019 through November 30th of 2023.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Okay, item number 8, road closures, and I'd like to move to approve them. Of course, these are all pending the traffic authority approval. The first would be the Litchfield County Irish American Club is asking to close both the northern and southern crossovers on the green for the Irish Festival. That would be from Saturday, September 9th of 2023, from 9 a.m. to 11 p.m. on Saturday, and on Sunday, September 10th, from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second? Any discussion?
Who
All
was
those-
that?
Tom?
Oh, thank you, Tom.
All-
Sorry.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Item 9, I'd like to move that we approve the Board of Education's request for $100,000 for the turf field replacement and the remaining balance of surplus on the Board of Ed's capital reserve.
Any discussion? Chris?
Question I'd ask. I understand the 100,000, but just remaining balance, do we know what the remaining balance is?
I believe over 2 million.
Okay.
They haven't finalized their numbers yet, but it's
Right, yeah.
around 2 million.
I fear they should have a pretty good idea. It's
Yes.
the last week of the year, so.
So we have no amount on here, so whatever it turns out to be.
Correct, would
Okay.
then go into their capital reserve, but the
okay.
100,000 would be
Turf.
as a payment for turf field replacement.
Okay, good.
And we all have the letter in the packet. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
Great. Item 10, an update from the Finance Director, Greg Ospow.
Greg?
Can I ask a question about the Board of Ed?
Sure.
Just thinking about their money, were they paid back from CERB for the fire yet, or that hasn't been resolved? Their $500,000, do you remember that?
So
amount
there,
that was given?
Jack, could you, Hillary had asked about any kind of reimbursements that the school had put in for fire. Have they received any money in reimbursements yet?
They've received a little, but not a lot.
Not the 500.
The final dollars, we've had that number at the beginning of the month, but now there's some more. Each time they're just about at a final number, something else comes up. So we were trying to have a meeting this week on site to go over that. Everybody's not available, so we're looking at July 5th to be on site to go over some final requests. There is I have a spreadsheet from Kerma I'm looking at, and Anthony's looking at it to see if it all matches.
Their deadline is June 30.
Well, I can tell you we're not going to make that because we
Right.
tried to make it meet this week and it's not everybody's available.
Okay. And
Anthony is aware. I've been corresponding with Anthony.
And that's all that money comes from Kerma.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It'd come from the other insurance carrier, not from Kerma.
The other insurance carrier?
Correct. In other words, the fire was them, right? So Kerma's going after, correct?
Yeah,
Jack,
there's-
they're going
that's
after the
secondary
bonding
part.
company for
Yeah.
the funding.
Right, but for the check to us would be Kerma?
Yes, but
Right,
that's
okay.
not, just so the public understands.
Right, gotcha.
Kerma isn't outlaying funds.
Right.
They are trying to recover funds on behalf of the town.
Right, the person at fault has an insurance company that's going to
Correct.
cover that.
Correct.
Got it.
And last question, sorry, but I noticed that they're putting in 100,000 for the turf field. I wonder if the town's gonna match that, or are we?
So
if
Greg will
that's
be
coming
talking
up.
about that in the
Okay,
carried in
wonderful.
force. Yes.
Good evening, everyone. This is the fiscal year 23 year-end financial update. The auditors were here to do their preliminary field work in May. There were no issues reported, and they will return for the full audit in late October, early November. The mayor and I participated in a ratings review with Moody's investors earlier this month. As the mayor mentioned, Moody's affirmed our AA1 rating with a stable outlook. The bond sale will take place July 11th. Year-end results. By my projections, I expect an approximate $3.3 million surplus. Most of this is revenue driven. The major categories responsible for this are as follows: interest income, state additional sales tax windfall, bond premium, and taxes.
And Greg, can I just expand on that for just a moment, if I could?
Sure.
So as Greg had talked about, which is great news, is our surplus is mainly derived by revenue, which shows the vitality of our community, and I'm going to give you some examples. So for instance, the mayor's office. Got two ladies down there, we took on the endeavor of the town to do passports, because no one was really doing them, right? So we budgeted $9,000 in passports that we would do. Right now, we've done almost 20,000. So by doing that, we have $10,975 additionally that we did not budget for, because we have a lot more people that want to take on that service. When Greg talks about interest income, right? So we didn't know what the interest rates would do. It's gone up, as Tom knows, 500 basis points. So why is that important? Well, our interest income as of right now has approached $1,279,703.85 more than we thought that we would. We also got from the state of Connecticut, surprise, surprise, an additional sales tax revenue that we didn't know we were going to get.
No.
That came to $533,259.38. Now, we also have some funds, as Greg's trying to unwind investments that were pre-Greg, trying to unwind these. We still have some, we're in some of these money market funds. And those money market funds, they obviously went up too, to the tune of an additional $198,126.40. We also last year got our bond and band premium, which is the money that we get once we do the financing. That was $930,693.17. Taxes collected. Greg, can you talk a little bit more about when we're looking at our lines? There's a line that says, in the tax collector line, taxes collected. Can
Yeah,
you?
there's several categories in taxes. There's current taxes, there's back taxes, there's interest, liens, and penalties. There's supplemental taxes. So there's many categories within taxes that we overachieved above and beyond what the current levy calls
So
for.
for instance, tax interest lien is up $264,726.12. Our taxes collected is $319,534.17 more. This is all good news, great news, right?
Yeah.
And the good news is, we're not grabbing the hands out of the taxpayer. This is all generated, all talks about the vitality of our town and our economy. Here's another example, when I'm talking with Bill Murphy. So we have building fees and permits. So when people are coming, whether they're gonna build a deck or whether they're gonna build a building, right? So right now we run an average, and we've continued to go up higher and higher on our yearly averages. This year we projected 500,000. And mind you, 3 or 4 years ago, we were at like 400,000. And before I came mayor, it was even way lower than that. Well, lo and behold, as of right now, we're at $602,198.77. That's up $102,198.77. Now I'm talking to Bill Murphy, and we may show within the next couple of weeks, we may show the additional revenue where we're gonna break, first time ever, 700,000
Permits and fees, everything's
for
included.
the permits for the building, right? So then you're talking about the town clerk, right? So town clerk, we have what's called conveyance fees. So conveyance fees are the fees that the town gets, as well as the state. State gets way more than we do, when you sell your house, right? So we had budgeted this year, which was higher than the year before, $675,000. As of right now, we're at $687,678.34, and that'll be a higher number as we close out our books. But there's another additional $12,678. Also, we're looking at park and rec fees. So you've got Dan, we focused on programs, right? Things people can do, that we want people out, exercising, doing these wonderful things. Also, we've got a beautiful beach. We've got those things. Well, right now, in speaking with Dan last year, we went up a pretty big, significant amount. We were budgeting $573,068. So far this year, $648,836.34, an increase of $75,768.87. So I'm just taking different sections so you can see the strength of our economy in all sorts of different ways that we have in New Milford. So that's great news. Great news. And hopefully we can continue on with that trajectory. So with that being said, not to take more of your stuff, what I would be, sorry, Greg.
There you go.
No, sorry. I'll let you finish. One of the things we did
Can I
talk
wrap
about, Hillary,
this?
is taking 100.
Just to be clear,
Sure.
I just think it would be nice to hear that the how much we're over. So in budget, 4,320,547 over right now as of year of end, right? We're not talking about encumbrances, but we haven't said the numbers yet.
No, the
So
operations
it's-
are going to continue,
Right.
obviously, through the end of August. So
Well,
there'll be more expenditures, possibly more revenues.
But those
if
are
I-
in encumbrances, right? I just wanted to hear the number. So we're almost 6 million over if you put the two together, revenue and, because we didn't hear the
No,
numbers in
'cause-
there. Yeah.
Let me, if I can finish.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. This is subject to audit and does not include the Board of Ed. These were mostly unanticipated and will allow for the town to plan for tax relief, stability for our unassigned fund balance, and provide for non-recurring capital expenditures. This enabled me not to utilize the Waste Management Fund of $500,000, which allows those funds to be invested in STIF, currently realizing 5.14% interest.
And Greg, how many years have we not now used the waste management fund?
3.
Thank you.
3. So that's about $1.5 million. That remains in the fund, that is collecting interest and, helping support our finances. Additionally, the surplus also afforded me the option of not using the planned use of internal service fund on the town side of $250,000, thereby providing a sound balance in that fund in the event we return to medical self-insurance.
Good.
Any-
So Greg, I remember we were talking about
Step fund before, remember, I think it was like 5 or 6 years ago, we were talking about it was like 1 point something %, and now they're at 5 and change. Yeah, point, and now, yeah. So how much of the fund do we have from the waste management making money in there?
The majority of it. I moved most of the investments on both the general fund and the waste management into the STIF account. So there's, 22 million in STIF. The general fund is variable because we use that to park our money to gain interest until we need it to bring it into the general fund, for cash flow purposes.
So roughly, we're around that $120,000, of profit, the 5%.
No, for waste management?
Yeah.
It's upward of almost $700,000
That's accumulative.
this year. This year alone.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
And on the general fund side, because I moved, I liquidated a lot of the investments and moved it into STIF. STIF is number one, safe. Number two, they're giving the highest interest rate you can possibly get. And it's liquid, it's 100% liquid. And
so you can get
we can have anywhere from $40 million in there collecting 5% interest. So we're going to get about $1.4 million in interest income this year alone, just on the general fund side.
Great to hear.
That was the biggest driver of the surplus.
That's good to hear.
Maybe I did too good a job?
No, do better. Yeah, more and more.
Any questions to Greg so far? Okay, Greg, can you go on to the carried in force?
Okay, before you have the carried in force.
Does everybody have their sheet that was in the packet?
Yeah. So, as we do every year, when there is unspent capital funds, we have the ability to carry and force those funds so they don't drop to the bottom line and they can be used for continuing their original purpose or being repurposed. So as you see before you, there's aging. They have a van. That's the town's contribution towards a bus. Excuse me, it's a bus. The assessor, that we accrue that money every year for when we do our full revaluation. Currently, there's 50. We're looking to add the 22.5, so a total of 73.5 will be carried over. There's multiple projects within public works and facilities for a number of different projects, bridges, radios, a grader that we didn't get. We're carrying that money in force to be able to purchase that next fiscal year. Some maintenance on various town buildings. The police department, they're looking to carry over money for a 5-year maintenance contract with Motorola on the state mandated cameras that they purchased. And obviously the ambulance, we do that every year, so they accrue monies, and when they have enough to buy a new ambulance, the money's there for them to be able to do that. So all told, all carried in force request is $1,391,920.
I'd like to move to continue the carry in force as was just mentioned, and the year-end adjustment, which is the second page.
Do we want to go over, we have that, but
You wanna
do you
do
want to go
them-
over the year-end adjustments?
You
so
want to do them
everybody understands
separately,
those
Greg,
year-end
or
adjustments?
how would you like us to approve this for you?
Can we ask questions about it?
Absolutely.
Sure, let's just leave it at let's do the carry in force.
Did you have a question on carried in force,
Oh,
Hillary?
carried in force, yes. So I went through some of them, and some of them are exactly what they have remaining in their balance from the budget to spend, which makes sense to carry over. And then some of them are, a huge increase. For example, Public Works, they're asking for $844,000 and, 155. What is carried over from what they were budgeted, that's was 589, so for, you know, they're asking for more than what was budgeted. So I'm just wondering, every year, is it more?
No, some of it is carried in force of already carried in force monies, if that makes sense to you. Some of it's capital, others are funds that are currently in the carried in force category, in addition to the capital carried in force.
So for equipment, they were budgeted $360,000, and they have $2,000 left of that money. And they're asking for, or you're carrying over another $330,000.
That 331 is for a grader.
It hasn't come in yet.
Okay, so
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that there is a significant amount being added to what they were budgeted, but I don't understand. So looking at at the line item for equipment,
Okay, the one for 331,000?
right, their budget for equipment, their line item budget
Yeah.
for the year 2022 to 2023 was $360,000.
Okay.
Right?
Yep.
So they've spent
They
that.
spent some.
They have $1,000, $2,000 left. It says remaining to spend, 2,000.
Well, wait a second.
Yeah.
Are you taking into consideration the encumbrance that's there? The
Yes.
encum-
Well,
The
let's look at it.
encumbrance is like $300-something thousand.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
That's part of the carried in force.
But yeah, so the encumbrance will be liquidated or canceled, the PO will be canceled, thereby making that money available to carry in force.
So that 360 wasn't spent in
No.
their equipment?
No,
Okay, so that.
no.
Because
So
the-
we're carrying
'cause the-
that in force.
The equipment didn't come in yet.
Okay, but it says available left is 1,700.
Right,
I'm trying to
because
find.
because the available takes into consideration the encumbrance, which will be liquidated, making that money available to carry. What's
Right.
that?
You got a grader that's late.
Correct.
Hold on, I'm finding it. Sorry, but I think it's,
You can't increase any budget lines
No.
to carry in force.
No.
Right, this is rolling over from the year before and last year, and in some cases, we've seen
Year
them go
before
farther
that.
back.
Right.
But you can't add money into it.
No.
You're not gonna spend it this
I
year, it's
can't-
gonna have to be spent next year when everything
Right.
does arrive.
Well,
I
I
can't
would I'd like
appropriate
that kind of
money.
math myself.
This is why we have a
if I
double
could.
A1 rating. We don't do those types of things.
No, and sometimes these
find
numbers are subject to change, because invariably what'll happen, even though I preach and I, tell these folks, listen, once you make your carried in force request, you cannot pay bills against that, because that reduces the amount of money that I'm able to carry in force. So this thing, it's kind of like an art as well as a science. I have to keep my eye on it to make sure no bills are presented against any of these carried in force requests, because if they are, I have to reduce the amount I carry in force.
So, I'm sorry, may I?
Sure.
So if the equipment happens to arrive next
Then I won't carry it in
this week,
force. Then I won't carry in
That's,
force.
that's,
I can't. The money won't be there.
the money won't be there.
It'll be
That's
Well, I
why
suspect the
they,
chances of a grader showing up.
No.
No.
Surprise. Very,
No.
very small.
But obviously,
I know, hypothetical, but for clarity,
you can't carry over what you don't
for
have.
clarity.
Right.
Well, let's look outside, you never know. Okay,
All right.
so we have a motion and we have a second.
Any other discussion on the
This is on the
carried in force?
carry in force.
Just
The
on the
carry
carry
in
in
force only,
Right.
the 1.391920.
Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm
Any abstentions?
going to abstain.
Okay. Item 10B1, 10C, I'd like to move that we also carry forward the year-end adjustments as noted on the document marked 10B.
And Hillary, thank you. Hillary, you'll notice down towards the bottom is the 100,000 for the turf fields, which will match the Board of Education.
Yeah, that's the town's portion.
Yeah, we
We've
did
also
bring that up before.
asked with your approval of taking $1 million and using that towards tax relief if needed, right, Greg?
Yes.
Okay.
I hate to put you on the spot, Greg. Do you know what you have for a balance on the turf fields?
I'm sorry.
What's the balance that you have? in the
I
turf?
don't have that with me.
Thank you. I asked all the
I- One day I'll get it.
Yeah.
We'll get it tomorrow. We'll ask
I'll get that. I'll
Anthony.
push it out, what the balance is currently before any transfers. I just transferred the
Sure.
$50,000 that we budgeted this year to the turf field, so that'll include that. It won't include the $200,000 that you moved on.
Could you email it to all of us?
So,
Could
right.
you email it to all of us?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
So Greg, you just said that. So the 50,000 we argued
Is-
about is gone.
will be in-
But the 100 from, well, Board of Ed's 100 and our 100,
That will be
it's not.
next fiscal
That's what I
year.
thought, yeah.
Right, July.
Got it. Okay.
So, Greg, what year did both the town side and the Board of Ed side start to put money into that account?
16, I think it was started.
Yeah.
16 or 17.
Which
I think it was-
budget
I think
year?
it was
What if I
seven-
say it
I
that
think it
way?
was 17, Doug.
It was probably 17. The field was completed in 16 and we established it. and
Right.
then The town and the BOE agreed, so it's probably 17.
So both budgets put in 50,000 in 2017, which was the 2016-17 budget,
It was probably.
or the 17-18 budget?
I don't remember. That's the
No, it
triple.
was,
That's what I'm
Right. It's
asking.
in that.
finished in 16,
Yeah,
so I think it
it's
was
probably the
17-18
17-18
budget.
Budget, okay. Thank you.
Could confirm that, but, okay, so we
Any
have a-
other questions on the year-end adjustments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
Understand.
Thank you.
Item
Thank you,
number
Greg.
11A. Oh, this is for you, but I'll make a motion. I'd like to move that we continue the reciting of the American Creed by William Tyler Page at the beginning of town council meetings.
That's for Chris. I'm on the, so I apologize.
Any discussion?
You knew it was coming.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right. That's what we have in here.
I'm not going to agree with the creed because I feel that with the Pledge of Allegiance that we say at the beginning of each meeting, and with the oath that we all took when we first came to office, we have made all the same promises with regard to how we would support our country, our town, etc. And I feel that reciting this creed is redundant. Also, it was written over 100 years ago because of the country being involved with World War I. So I don't feel we're in that situation where we have to think about it that way. I feel that our Pledge of Allegiance and our oath of office covers all the points, and that's why I'm not supporting adding that to our,
Okay.
okay?
Chris?
I would add, I support it. I think maybe like you, the first time I had heard it read in recent times was at a Daughters of American
Yes.
Revolution meeting,
Yep.
and especially with the children. And it made me really rethink in some of these words, these concepts that I believe are timeless. This might have been written 100 years ago, but I hope we're still reciting this 100 years from now, because and I look at these words every meeting, and they have significant meaning to me. So I love saying this every meeting.
Tom? Paul?
I think it's a way to honor the founding fathers of the country. We all think about 7 of them, but there's actually 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence. Out of those 56, several of them lost their lives, their fortunes, their family members, their wives. I don't mind saying it every time. I have family that goes way back that were in the Revolutionary War. I don't think they died in it, but they were there. I'll say the creed.
Katie?
I have to agree with Chris. I obviously enjoy the fact that we do take an oath and we pledge to the flag. And I do think, though, that it's a little bit more focused on what it means to an American. You know, people who become nationalized citizens. They become citizens and, they pledge allegiance and they have to read things. And I happened to talk about this with someone who recently became a citizen, and they almost came to tears reading it. So I realize that's a newly made citizen, but I would like us to continue to read it. And actually, I wish that others would read it. I don't feel any ownership of being the person to read it. I just go faster than you do.
Doug, did you have something?
In a world we live in today, we try to eliminate history instead of reminding people about it, whether it's good or bad. And who knows what the next 100 years will be like, but anytime we can instill history to a town, to its people, to remind what our forefathers gave and sacrificed for us, I'm all for it. So I'm for it.
Yeah.
Mary Jane?
I believe Pledge of Allegiance is sufficient, and I think this is obviously an optional thing. I mean, this is not a mandatory thing, so if you don't want to recite it, you don't have to. You can sit down, you can do whatever you want, and if you want to recite it, you recite it, but I think it is, like Alex says, it is redundant.
I take the Pledge of Allegiance very seriously, and I think there are a lot of people who say it who aren't paying attention to the words. So I would rather put more effort on understanding and paying attention to the words of the pledge than finding other words to say exactly what that is saying we need to be doing and thinking and how we treat each other. So to me, the Pledge of Allegiance is the most powerful, and I take it very seriously and always have. Hence, I don't think we need to add more to give credibility to the work that we do, or to honor previous generations or new generations. Our pledge does that for us.
Yeah, I just was gonna agree with Alex and say that, we agreed to a certain format in the beginning of the year, and I could understand maybe if at the next term it was talked about, but this just, and maybe we have a special day where it's read and we all read it, and there are none of the words there that I am opposed to or that I wouldn't want to say. It's just, I have some of my favorite words. Alexis de Tocqueville wrote Democracy in America, and I can quote some of those things and say that is what makes me feel like an American reading those words. So I think that everybody has what makes their soul sing, but I don't think that we need to publicly display it when we have the pledge, which is perfection, and we all say it together in unison. And so I think it's just the way it was dropped upon us mid-year, and I think we could revisit it at the start of a next session should we all be reelected. Thank you.
Myself, just interjecting, I had asked for this to be put on in the very beginning. I went to a Daughter of American Revolution event and was just totally amazed at the creed. And I was just saying to myself, this just sings to your soul, as you had said, but it also brings really into light what our forefathers did to make this country great. And I do agree myself that the pledge is the most important. That's why we do it first. But I also think for those that would want to do this, I think the availability is here as council members, and those that don't want to do it, you can sit down and not do it. But I think it's an opportunity for us to continue, especially those that are watching at home or those that may be coming here, because there is a lot of, believe it or not, young people that watch it. And if there's any way, even if we could get one person to think about it, like, hey, that one time, to me, then it's worth doing this every meeting, every time, if you're helping one person understand a little bit more about our great country. Okay. Any other comments? So we have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
No.
Any abstentions? Thank you.
Okay. Item 11B, I'm sorry, Mayor, this is for you. We're going to discuss the revision of the 2006 Housatonic Management
And
Plan.
we have Mayor Gambino, who's here, to talk a little bit about the Housatonic Management Plan. Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor, Town Council.
quite a discussion just a minute ago. I'm here tonight with, Robert Gambino, 4 Old Mill Road, New Milford, Connecticut. Bridge is still out.
Yes, sir.
That's your postscript. Bob, that's your postscript for a while, right?
Mark Andreato, I'm the alternate, and I get home just fine.
He's a Republican. So we always have a little levity when I'm here. How many of you got the letter that the Housatonic River Commission, okay, sent you with a questionnaire? Did you all get it?
In all our packets, yep.
Did you all read it?
Yes, sir.
Would you like me to go over it? A little bit, please.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. On behalf of the River Commission, Mark and I are here to get the input from all of you because we're representatives of your town to the member towns. And some of you may not know, but I think I've mentioned it before. 7 towns, okay? New Milford, Kent, Sharon, Salisbury, Cornwall, Canaan, and North Canaan all have reps, and we've done a fantastic thing. The 41-mile stretch from Massachusetts down to Boardman Bridge has been federally designated as a wild and scenic river. And I think you all appreciate that because that's really what it is. It's a beautiful river. And we want to make sure the designation continues to build, give you the benefits that such a river does. And so we're here to get your input. I don't know if you knew this, but the Housatonic River Commission worked with what we call a coordinating committee. It was the National Park Service, the Department of Environmental Protection, the Northwest Hills Council of Government, the First Light Power Company, Housatonic Valley Association, and we are trying to revise our plan. We have received federal funds that are going to start in July, and we have submitted a budget that we prepared a few months back to the NPS, which has been, we'll say, approved by them, but is not inflexible. So we also have appointed the Northwest Hills Council of Government as our fiscal agent to oversee what the treasurer here is spending the money on. But it's, makes it funny, but it isn't. We do have very good work with that group, and they have been kind of our foundation as well. We request that each town express its opinions. That's why we're here tonight. And there are 7 items that we have on the sheet that was attached. We'd like you to go over those 7 items, not tonight, but you might have questions tonight, and return it to Pat Hembrook so we can pick it up by the 10th of July for our inclusion in the revision. I would also like to request that you allow us to provide the survey to the Zoning Commission, the Wetlands Commission, and the Conservation Commission, because I think they are representatives of the town, and at the same time hear things that maybe I don't hear or you don't hear, or have opinions that they'd like to see happen on that stretch that goes all the way down to the Boardman Bridge. So with that, I'll step aside and let my co-man here answer any questions. Any questions? No.
Can we give you these questionnaires tonight?
You could give it to us tonight, yes.
Chris?
So, obviously, there's a reason why you chose these 7. But I'm going to show some of my ignorance on the subject. So things like, so number 5 kind of stuck out at me, invasive plants and zebra mussels. That's not something I was aware was an issue in the river, is it? Or is it something that,
Oh, yes, invasive plants, excuse me. We have Japanese knotweed, a lot of the stretch, and we have been actually coordinating with all the towns to do an inventory.
Okay.
We only have one town that's haven't really got into mapping. Mark and I mapped almost all the roads in New Milford. So the invasive plants is part of the water problem. Zebra mussels is in your
it's in the
Candlewood
lake? Yep.
Okay? And Candlewood Lake is like, sucks up the water and sometimes puts it back. It's only a matter of time when we're gonna see them in your river, New Milford's river, not necessarily going north, but then going south.
Well, they are in Lake
So we have
Lillanoa,
a-
correct?
Okay?
They're in Lake Lillanoa, right? The zebra mussels, they're in Lake, they made it into Lake Lillanoa, they made it into Candlewood, so we really don't have, we don't really have any foresight to see that this is not stopping, this is getting worse. I mean, as much as we can do with the boat ramps with people power washing their boats and taking it, all you need is a couple of, in an inlet,
I
and
think
they
you
proliferate.
might want to make that kind of a comment,
Yeah.
saying that they're doing due diligence at the places where they are. But that doesn't mean that it's not going to get put in some other way. So that becomes one of our concerns. Sorry.
In regards to the invasive species, the knotweed, you're mapping that on also the roads as well as around the river?
Yes, we mapped New Milford's and all the towns. I think we have Salisbury left to do.
Well, I think Jack had, I think Kathleen Nelson was writing a paper or was working on a position paper discussing knotweed or mile a minute or all those, things that are really affecting not only along the river, but are also affecting the canopy over our roads and creating a lot of, you go up and down where I live on Bear, half the trees are covered and half of them are dying. And they eventually fall on the power lines or across the road and they become, quite an issue for our community.
That's an ash problem from a emerald ash borer. But we've been working together on this for a long time, and within a lot of other towns, we've actually had representatives of their public works come to, we'll say, schooling that we provide, the Housatonic River Commission, and I think we've been there as well, so that we want to get everybody knowledgeable. Japanese knotweed is only one problem. Zebra mussels is only the second, and we've been talking about the, you want to tell them? The spotted lanternfly.
Yeah.
And you also have a wonderful grove of the ailanthus tree of heaven. That's a attractor for that thing, and that particular lanternfly can get into problems with other plants that are in our community. But if you bring all those things up, we're only part of solving the problem.
Thank you, Bob.
Mary Jane? Sorry.
Bob, what is the railroad using?
I'm sorry?
What is the railroad spraying? What are they using, do you know?
The railroad, we've been looking at that. I don't know what they do in New Milford because no one's complained. But in Kent and Cornwall, it's been fantastic damage. They have a 25-foot right-of-way, but they spray because of safety purposes and the ability to keep the line open. They spray much more than that and spray onto private property. At the same time, they're also spraying, they don't turn the spray off and on every time they come to a stream. So they end up with the potential for the material they're putting in to get into the Housatonic. We've been working with that diligently with the DEEP. Actually, we're even in cahoots with Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection because they have a much stronger handle on the railroad. But you all know that the railroad is a federal thing, okay, and even though it's a transportation in our state, and it's kind of hard to make changes there, but we're not going to give up.
So do you know what chemical they're using?
Yes, I do, but I don't have it with me, and we've been, well, I can tell you that we have stuff in there that really shouldn't be sprayed so that it can fall into the river through runoff, okay? If you will, I'll give you the sheet, I have it at home. Or if you as council members want to see what they sprayed a few years back, I have it. We have not been able to stop them. They're going to spray again. And no one in New Milford has ever raised a complaint. But if you ever cross the tracks at South Kent and look south and north and see the tunnel, you know.
Could you send that to us, Bob? Would you mind sending that
I'm sorry?
that report on what they spray, what they've done?
Would you all like a copy of it?
I would.
Jack's got his hand up.
Jack?
They have to file a report every year. We receive it every year.
Yeah.
So actually, we could just forward the actual report to the council.
If you had the one for this year?
Yeah.
So maybe you get
I'll
that.
look and see if I had it in the phone.
They do a report, Jack, that to us, the town council?
Yeah, it's required by
Not
the state of
to the
Connecticut.
To DPW.
They file it every year with the towns. Every town that a rail goes through, they
Right.
have to file and tell you what they're using for herbicides and pesticides on the track. It's required by DEP.
So you could send that to us?
I can send you the actual report.
And we've seen that one. And when we have our next meeting, I will go to the person that's on top of that and make sure that you realize which ones are the ones I think that Mary Jane is concerned about. These are the long-lasting, non-dissolving materials that move.
Now that we're a key city,
Yeah,
it's kind
right.
of contradictory, you know, so.
Oh, yeah. You can't be killing them.
Alex?
How many surveys do you think you'll be using to gather this data? I'm just trying to get a feel
You
for.
mean how many of these
Yeah.
surveys? It's gonna go in every town.
Okay.
And it'll be the, I guess you'd say the selectmen and the board of selectmen. I don't think the group might have taken the aggressiveness that I would, okay, for wetlands and conservation and zoning. I do know that sometimes those commissions are really not up to date with some of those things. New Milford is pretty good. Cornwall is fantastic, and so is Canaan. The others, you know, people may not really realize that they have a problem with chemicals from the railroad.
We're at the south end. We're at the south end of that route. That's why we care more. And we have a big chunk of it throughout the entire town, so.
Wait a minute.
Sorry, Bob. Me too.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. We're at the south end of the line, right, of the communities that are going to be surveyed?
We've not surveyed the railroad line.
No,
We sur-
but the river.
The
We're
river.
at the south end of the communities on the river that are being surveyed.
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
I
we-
just
we
wonder
know
how the
that-
answers are going to be different depending on where you are along the route.
Well, it depends on which town has a railroad running right next to the river.
But it works on all the questions, really.
The Kent, New Milford, Cornwall, definitely. The
Okay.
rest of them, the river is a little further away.
Right. Chris? You're okay? Any other questions for the mayor? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you,
Town
Mayor.
Council.
Thank you.
I don't want to steal it.
Yeah, get home, make sure you get home okay.
Maybe get a ride for the
Carpool. Okay,
Oh, man.
Don't let that get around there.
you want me to make the motion on the opioid?
The rest of you will pick it up by the 10th.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay,
Thank you.
11C, I'd like to move that we move and approve the creation of the opioid settlement committee.
Second.
No, we didn't create it yet
Nope.
fully.
Nope.
Uh,
And we have,
Any questions? We've had it now for several meetings.
Right.
Everyone's had a chance to review it.
Right.
Any additional comments? Katie?
I've reviewed many of the things that were here, and Attorney DeBella did send us a document to make some clarity, and he made a suggestion that the New Milford Committee be charged by the town council along the following lines, which I would like to say as, that we should talk about that. I mean, I personally would read it into part of our motion, but this could change, so I don't know that it should be part of that. But anyway, I hope you all took a look at that, what he sent us. And my only other comment is I believe that the committee should be formed with 5 regular members and 2 alternates, and that it would be a fluid process over time because of the type of people that we would, I'm just kind of running on here, but the type of members of this committee that the committee should have. So I don't know about a time frame as we usually have, right? Let's go ahead, Chris.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I guess a couple comments from me. I know we've talked about the longevity of this committee. Should it be a temporary, should it be a permanent? And I know we have in front of us one batch of money coming. It seems to me it was 60, 70,000, something like that. And I guess in my mind, I'm usually biased towards keeping a committee temporary unless it's absolutely necessary to make it permanent. Because when it's permanent, couple reasons. If we don't get any more money after this, now we've got people who may have to be reappointed and there's nothing on their agenda. And 2, the other thing is when committees become permanent, line items on the budget kind of sneak up during budget times eventually. So I try and bias more towards temporary. And I think the other thing in terms of quantity, I think we had talked about before, because of the enormous quantity of stakeholders in this sort of thing, of having 7 permanent committee members, or was it 5?
Well, we originally talked about 5 and 2 alternates because of having to find people who would be willing to be committee members and that are in that genre of.
And, yeah, we also need to be cognizant that there will be people that can provide testimony and experience that may want to come to the committee and ask for funds. If they're on the committee, they won't be able to access those funds because of because of our charter.
Okay.
So those people can come in to the committee and give their
Yeah.
experience and opinion. They just wouldn't be able to vote, but then could still go and access the
They
funds.
could be
Fair
like
enough.
expert witness or
Yeah.
whatever, expert speaker like we've had.
Yeah. I guess I would just propose we make it a temporary committee. If we get more money comes in, we can then make it a permanent later, something, I don't know, just my thought.
It's gotta be fluid, because if we do get a lot more in funding, then may have to change in respect to that, and if we don't, as you said, then why have one hanging out there? Because this committee will have to have an attorney to consult, correct, Mayor?
Yeah.
Right, and a secretary to take minutes. You know, it's important for this because of the type of things that are required of it.
Actually, Chris, thank you, because now I would want it to be permanent because it would show a commitment on the part of the town to a long-term solution for the opioid issues in town. It would be more of, not just that money, but you said it might show up in the budgetary process, et cetera. Maybe we do need to make a stronger commitment also during budgetary times toward helping the opioid crisis, because it's not going away.
But it couldn't be part of the settlement funds.
Yeah, there would be a different committee.
That would have to be a completely different.
This is just for settlement funds.
This is strictly and very well defined that what we would do.
This committee.
What the settlement, I mean, Attorney DeBell is here, he can speak to that.
It's not to solve the problem, it's
That-
to allocate the money to where it's needed.
Right,
But
strictly.
money we could be getting more allocations of money. And as Tom had referenced before, if suddenly we get federal dollars, would this committee then be, or is this ordinance, does it say this one, it does say?
So we'd have to take that on when it came, but we couldn't take, like, appropriate funds from our town budget or whatever to do that,
So then,
to go in the same pot of money.
so then we don't have to worry about it coming up in the budget, Tom, right, Chris?
So if there's a standing committee, and let's say this one settlement comes in and nothing else after that, and then if they have standing meetings and they need a recording secretary, and there's really nothing going on, the recording, there's
But they wouldn't meet if they didn't have funds to distribute, probably, right?
Well, that's, right, that's.
Could you
And
set
then-
the budget
Be
for the
dormant.
attorney, the secretary? And Randy, a question to you is, I mean, we as the town council can approve this and disband this at any time in the future. We can keep the level of participation the same as 5 and 2, or if it really becomes something that we
Right.
need to expand, we have the ability to do that.
You do that by resolution, you don't need an ordinance for that when you do a
Right.
temporary committee.
Right.
So you can keep it fluid. The concern that I have is that when we take a look at this, and you saw the statute, it's very, very convoluted, if you will. It almost is a stream of consciousness, how it reads. The concern that I have is you're gonna get more money, a week after it dissolves, or a week after the committee expires, you're gonna have to create another one, because you have to under the statute. You have to have that distribution based upon the statutory schematic.
You're
That's the only
assuming
reason.
it would dissolve. See, I see it as like most things that come this way from higher up government. It's important, we're getting this settlement, but this really is because of lawsuits and.
Yeah, that's where it's coming from. It's
Exactly.
coming from the litigation.
And those are ongoing, continuing
Right.
until maybe never stopping.
Right.
So, I don't know, I don't.
Really, it can continue depending upon, the victims keep happening here.
That's right.
So the fact is
Right.
that the class,
That's
if
right.
you will, for lack of a better term, expands.
And part of my reason for keeping it in a smaller, rather, because I think that if it were to become larger or more frequent, then we could add more people. But I still say again that our bucket full of knowledgeable people who could be involved with this is a limited amount. And if it got to be to that point, we might have to recruit people from other towns to come in and help us, help the committee, which is, as the mayor said, is why you want to have these sort of adjunct experts or contributors rather than having a larger committee, which might preclude some of the people who know the most about it from ever being able to be part of using this money to help what they want us to do.
You can do that by resolution.
Yes.
You see, you resolve, and then you can add
That's right.
the authority to bring
Right.
experts
But
in.
that, again, becomes another thing we have to do, and to me, a temporary committee is, we don't know any more than anybody else does what's gonna happen with it. That's why I just felt that temporary.
I think Randy made a good point about keeping it as a permanent committee, because if it's a temporary committee and we disband it, and then there's more money coming in, you're gonna have to start the process all over again, and then start to look for people all over again. It just doesn't make sense.
Gonna have to
And
do that anyway.
You know, if there's no more money and there's no more issues, which is totally unlikely, because substance
But the
abuse
issue
is
is the
not
money.
going
If
away.
there's no more money, right? We know there's gonna be issues, but this is, if there's no more money, then there's no committee.
Well,
Settlement could change, we don't know.
I know,
It's a big
but it's
deal.
not gonna hurt to establish a permanent committee. What is it gonna hurt?
But
It's
we
not
can
gonna hurt
always, we
anything.
can always, when the temporary ends, you can always extend it as well. As a council, we can do that.
I know. I don't agree
Any-
with that.
So, Mr. Mayor, it says here, you're recommending that we have a local committee. Was your intent for it to be a temporary committee or a standing committee?
My intent would be, if you're asking me, would to start off as a temporary committee. See where the funding would come, see where the lawsuits are going, and then obviously you can expand it, extend it if it looks like, and we can have Randy come in, and as he's here every meeting, we could look at it in a quarterly process, maybe towards, let's see, this first quarter is gonna come out, and municipal will be August, September, so maybe around towards the new year, you look at it, if there looks like there's more funding, then the council at their purview could decide to make it a permanent committee. That's the beauty of it, at least you're up and going, and you have the flexibility to change, because what you don't want or can't do is go from permanent to temporary. Correct, Randy? So,
Permanent committee is by ordinance.
Right.
correct.
By ordinance. You need to repeal,
Right.
repeal the ordinance.
To
and then
make
you'd
it
have to, by
temporary.
resolution, create a temporary committee. All of them are subject to a lot of regulation, so, yes, Hartford go from
Right.
permanent to.
And in this respect too, because it's all new to all of us, is we may uncover things that this may end up evolving to a permanent committee, but there may be things as we're uncovering, doing our own due diligence as the committee, that you might want to add into a permanent committee that we weren't aware of. I don't know what that could be, but to me, it just seems more prudent to start as a temporary and then go into permanent if it's needed.
And I'll make another point that this could, because now it's 169 towns, right? This is an overwhelming amount of information and could become an overwhelming amount of money. And at some point, the state may say, we'll handle this. You, as the 169 towns, you send us what you want to do, and we'll do the apportionment.
Can I address that?
Please do.
That is a very good point, and the reason I say that is because the way the statute's drawn, it really sets up a, if you will, a hierarchy.
Correct.
In the state, including a committee.
Correct.
The state. It wants us to have a committee locally in order to administer our grant, and, which is required. But there's no guarantee that the state won't take this over. And depending upon how big this settlement
Correct.
pot gets, they could. So I don't know that they will or they won't, but take a look at that statute, and you'll say it's really detailed in how many members, and there's 36 of them. In this, I think 36 members called for in the statute. So they would have the infrastructure already, if you will, the administrative infrastructure. That could happen. I'm not saying it will.
No, we can't predict, but it's not unusual.
I wonder if that wouldn't, if that wouldn't be sort of frowned upon by that. We want to get more money, so we don't want to make it look like we're not taking it seriously, that we're not committed. That's my only hesitation to the temporary, is that, I want to be all in and say this town is going to partner with the state group and really do what we can do, and that's why. So I worry that that's an indication that we're just going to take the money, pass it out, and then we're done, instead of like sort of what Alex was saying. It indicates a real commitment. So that's where I would say. And also, is there anything in the statute that says you can't do a temporary, or you could do either?
No,
Okay.
the statute says we have to administer in accordance with the guidelines of my memorandum. And that's why I drafted the proposed charge the way I did, because I want to comply with the statutory mandate.
Right.
And I would include that the committee charge should list, I'm talking about verbatim,
So-
what's in the statute
Correct.
in order to
Exactly.
withstand audit.
So Randy, to kind of quelch the concerns that some of the members may have when it comes to commitment, we could memorialize our commitment in our motions, because that's really what the state looks at, right? Is our memorialization, where we could say, and I'm paraphrasing it, I mean, I could defer to you, is in New Milford's continued support of addressing the opioid condition in New Milford and statewide and nationally, we are setting up a temporary committee. I mean, I don't wordsmith it correctly, but in that way, you're memorializing the commitment already. It's just that we're looking at it going step by step.
Yeah, the prefatory language you used would be, you should do that in order to participate, respect, honor, and essentially implement the mandates.
Yep.
And
You need to do that you should do that as prefatory language for your motion anyway. The big situation here is you really have to, this committee's gonna really have to follow this statute.
Right.
It can't be a pet project, it can't be, I wanna
Right.
buy a
And they'll also not ever, state can't say, well, we didn't think you really put your heart in it, New Milford, so we're not gonna give you any more money. That they do have to.
Oh, no, they won't hold it against you.
I
My
just-
recommendation was simply to keep a
Exactly,
vehicle open.
exactly. And that's why I do think, because of some of the statute and some of the language that has to be used and followed, that it, at some point, not far in the future, will become taken care of by Hartford. But until then, we do want to do what we can do here, and,
Mary Jane?
I have a question, Randy. Do you know what other towns are doing? Are they doing, I know because you've been in contact with a lot of other towns.
They're all over the place, actually. Some of the towns are just gonna have the Board of Selectmen, if you will, act as this agency, and, which is, it's not something I recommend, because you don't have the specialists on there.
right.
I haven't heard any of my towns that are gonna be formalized like New Milford, but none of my towns are as big as New Milford.
Right.
And in a variety of ways. But my other towns are really talking about what they're gonna do with the check by way of Board of Selectmen. It's not gonna be the same amount of money either.
Right, and it may be the thing that I see is that to find 5 plus 2, find 7 people who are A, willing, and B, have the breadth of whatever is needed here and the time
credentials, right.
to do the work.
Yeah, you need some good cross-section here.
Are
Ones
working
that are
in
wanting to get the
places
money.
that will want the money. That's the problem.
That's exactly
So
why
I
I
don't
was
quite know
saying
how-
about having special contributors to, no different really than we get when we have people come and talk to us.
Yeah.
And I think that would help them not have to worry about getting any of the money.
Don't
from it.
forget, the committee makes a recommendation to the town council. It all ends up with the legislative body. And the reality is that you're gonna have to check on the bona fides of these people anyway.
Exactly. Right.
You get somebody who wants a Partridge Family van because they wanted to have you're not gonna award that. You're gonna get those requests, not you. This money is gonna get those requests from various factors. That's gonna have to be vetted at the recommendation level, and then by the town council.
We have some organizations in town, and we have New Milford Can, who has people and has the structure enough to know some ways that this could be used to stay within line of this. And again, the people there would be, some of those people would be able to be on a committee, but if they are, as part of this other entity, that would preclude them from being able to get the money to use it, especially with the children. We're talking about through the youth agency or NMCAN. So that's why I think it's important to have people who know what's happening and then have these sort of contributors that could come, which would
You could
allow
get,
them
you
to
get a
take
social
time.
worker, you get stakeholders, parents,
Yes.
teachers,
Yeah, that's right.
That's where the rubber meets the road.
Yep, and they don't all have to be a member, I mean, if the 9 people that make up the town council had to make every decision without anybody ever coming in to talk to us about anything, it'd be pretty bad, wouldn't it? So I think this committee being smaller, but even so, it's more, just as if
So
it's more important.
We have a motion and a second for the creation of the committee, 5 members, 2 alternates, and then in your motion, are you
I would say it's a temporary committee.
temporary?
And are you referencing the commitment with this motion
Absolutely.
as well, so that you need to change some verbiage?
Absolutely, but I think that what we ought to do, if you really want to know, because this is a lot of words, that we should either bring this up in place, let everybody look at it in writing, not to read through this. I think we all have should take the time to read through it, and
So-
Randy would see it. And then we've gotten this far with it. I say let's table to our
So-
next meeting.
So Randy, could we make the motion, because we have a motion and a second?
Sure.
Could we vote on that?
Yes.
Right?
You
And
can
then,
vote on making it.
and then ask you to come up
Solidify.
with the wordsmithing for the next meeting to talk about New Milford's
Right.
commitment to addressing the opioid
And take this in, yeah.
So I'll draft a proposed resolution?
Yep.
Along with the prefatory language regarding the foundational
Yes, please.
information.
So
Okay.
this will just be the motion that we will create the opioid settlement committee as a temporary committee consisting of 5 regular members and 2 alternates.
And instruct the town attorney to draft a proposed resolution.
And instruct the town attorney to propose a
Which
draft.
then will come to the next meeting, Councilman.
With 5 members, 2 alternates.
Yes, sir. Is that agreeable? I mean, that's what I'm saying. There's
Any-
my motion.
Any other discussion on the motion? We have a
Chris
motion
had
and a second.
seconded it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
So Mayor, you'll have that
Yep,
moved to next?
to the next meeting.
Okay, great, okay. Then the next thing is, I'd like to move for discussion and action for us to form a fair rent commission.
And Randy, can we kind of, do we have a second? Second. Thank you, Chris. Can we make sure and connotate that it's a fair rent commission, make sure
Yeah.
on all the documents that
Not
we...
housing, make sure,
Right.
right.
Thank you.
That got in one and went nuts.
Okay.
Okay, so there we go.
Everybody's had the, yeah, Randy, that's sufficient to, thank you.
This is the correct one. You're simply correcting the the way the motion's been nominated.
Correct.
To create it to fair rent commission, not fair housing.
Perfect.
It was a clerical error.
Thank you. So we've had the drafts that's been circulating. Does anybody want to talk a little bit more about the draft that you guys have all had? Okay.
I'm pretty good with
The
it.
same one we voted yes on already.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
It just had the wrong name. It had the housing instead of rent.
So nothing's
Yeah.
changed except
Yeah.
the name.
Right,
The correct name.
Correct.
with the correct name.
The red line, yes. The red line copy
Yes.
shows the changes after all of the iterations. The Scrivener's were Hillary and me, because she added a significant part of it. So
And that's what we voted on.
That's defined here. The clean copy incorporates all those red lines, and that's what you've already voted on.
Yes, correct.
So, community questions have come with, why now? Why do we have to do it? So, like, I know why, but
Absolutely.
I think that that's something that
We
we
had
need to put out there.
Absolutely.
What's
So for
what's
the-
this really all about?
Right, so for the people that are watching, and we can definitely push it out, is this is required by the state of Connecticut for us to have it in place prior to the end of June, which is what we're doing. We can then populate it after, correct, Randy?
Yes.
After, but we need to have the
Yes.
bones of the structure in
But
place.
there's also no intent to evade the statute. The
Correct.
ordinance, So I can this is not a problem. I can handle this in Hartford.
Perfect.
And it was, one of the changes, Alex, was that it used to be cities only.
There we go, that's the thing.
Right, and now they include all populations.
25,000 or more.
Right, so we are now part of that.
Right. That's important for people to understand why.
Yes, I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Any questions concerning the ordinance? Okay. We have a motion and a second, and then we're going to direct Randy to, right, come up with,
No,
Oh,
you don't
we
have to
change
change
anything.
anything. We already, yeah, we already have it.
okay. Perfect. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Mayor, you're next with economic
Thank you.
development.
Just real quick, our unemployment statistics as of May is we are at 3.4% as unemployment, and that's consistent with the area that we have, the surrounding area for towns our applicable size. For those that may have seen in the papers, the closing of Duke's Tavern and of Zaragoza, as they were all combined into one hospitality group, and then the person that was running that decided to close doors. Is the Q is taking the Duke's facility, both the top and the bottom piece, and they're a well-known barbecue entity down in Danbury. Very excited. As for Zaragoza, a lease has been signed, but the current owner that will be moving in hasn't decided what his the eatery name is going to be, but once you hear who it is, it's a very popular restaurateur. So that will be completed, so that's great news. As far as where the old golf store was here on Main Street, that's going to be taken over, and it's going to be called Hummingbird Books. So it's going to be a college bookstore, and that's actually Lotkey who runs or owns Education Without Walls. That's her new company that she's going to be bringing over. She's going to have some of the students help with that. It's going to be almost like a college bookstore, so that's going to be amazing, outstanding. So those that may have not tried the new Mexican restaurant, Vegas, down there, is doing very well. Now another family restaurant opening up here in New Milford. In Staples Plaza, we're going to be having Mama's Bagels, which is going to be opening up there shortly. New York-centric bagels. Also, there's going to be a Dominican family restaurant that will be opening up there as well. And then some of the other things that we've talked about where we're in the process is the East Coast Connector new facilities headquarters, which is on Route 7 North by the Seed Company. I believe steel's going up as we speak, which is excellent. Across the street from there, you have the Roger Sherman commercial entity that they're building there. There's going to be some warehousing structures there. As we go down Route 7 real quick, the approval for the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through in Big Y parking lot has been approved through zoning, so they're going to be working on that. As you continue to move up Route 7, on the left-hand side, you see O'Reilly's Auto Parts. I believe it's any day now that they're going to get their CO. They've already got product in there, then they will be open. There will be 2 additional retail pads that will be built within that complex as well. You continue to, we'll go to Pickett District. You'll have the Bruzy headquarters that's on Pickett District. You also have SML or FSM. Thank you. Excavation. That's moved from Washington to New Milford. So their headquarters are there. Continue to move up a little bit to the right was zoning approved 110 townhome units that will be there, as well as 4 retail commercial pads there as well. Continue to move up to the roundabout. You'll see on the right-hand side, there's going to be a masonry company. They're building the foundation. I believe they put some of the stuff on there now, I believe, to the right. Yeah, they got the roof up there. You have Built Right Industries, which is across the street. I believe they're if they haven't had their CO, it's going to be any day now. They'll have their CO, and they brought 25 jobs from Brookfield, and they're looking to expand and grow. In front of their place is Garrity Plumbing. They're going to be breaking ground, I'm hoping sometime shortly, and they're bringing their headquarters from New Preston to New Milford. You've got Northeast Carpet, who just put on their new warehouse facility there, their new piece, which is great. This business is expanding. And that's pretty much what I have so far for economic development. And lastly, as far as showing strong numbers, I was trying to find that from our building inspector, Bill Murphy. He was talking about how many permits we had this past week, and I just had it, and
Pete, did I hear you say a drive-through Dunkin' Donuts?
Yes.
Big one
Yes.
parking
That's
lot?
exactly
Yes.
right. And the next thing you think
That was
of is the
approved.
parking lot
I'm like,
access.
where are they building like a standalone
you know where the,
structure?
Yes,
yeah, you know where the,
you know where the
as
bank
soon as you
is.
pull into the Big Y, it's the first parking
Right.
lot that's to the closest to Route 7. Right there, the
Yeah.
employee parking lot. That's where they're going to put it.
Okay,
Small one where you drive up.
okay.
So you can get your coffee there and then drive down. If you finish
Get my
that one,
coffee
you
at
can
home.
get it again. When you drive a little bit farther, you can get it again.
All right, bagels and coffee.
Telling you, there's lines in all of them every morning.
That's the truth. Right.
Okay. As I'm digging through this, Katie, I'll
Okay.
ask to come back to that as I dig through my paperwork.
Okay?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
what about the pop-up thing?
The pop-up, right now, we have, the Economic Development Corporation is working for that. They're pretty close. You have, the chairman, and you also have, trying to remember who else is working with them, Tony.
Yeah.
They had mentioned at this last corporation meeting that they're very, very close to opening it up. And they're thinking when, Steph?
boy, not exactly, October-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll ask them to come to the next meeting, Alex, to
It'd be
see if
nice
they
to-
can come and give us an update. Absolutely.
Thank you.
All set?
Yeah.
Okay. Item 11F is a discussion on the charge of the Municipal Building Committee.
And for those that,
We have
they hand this out to everybody, so that everybody,
the article of it.
2, 3, 4, one's for you, Steph. That's everybody's there too.
1, 2, 3, 4. I have one.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
Okay. Make sure everybody's got it. They take a moment if you'd like to read it quickly. We'll give everybody a couple minutes to kind of look at it.
What are we looking at?
This is from the charter.
Yeah.
This is the
No, it's not
Municipal
new.
Building Committee charge.
Oh, okay.
Right.
And I'll just ask everybody to kind of take a look at it real
Oh,
quick.
sure, sure.
And this page 3 of 3 has nothing on it.
That's
So you don't think
how it
it.
prints out.
No, yeah, I'm
Oh,
just saying, I
okay.
don't think you missed something.
Yeah. Okay, everybody get a chance to kind of look at it real quick? Okay. I know, Hillary, you had, you wanted to talk about this a little bit at our next meeting, so I'll give the floor to you.
It's so late, I'm so tired. I think that, I think that we should look at the ordinance, Randy's not here, because I think it's problematic. I think it's, what I was trying to do in the last meeting was explain how I don't think that any group of people can accomplish all of these things that are in this ordinance. So there's, what? Yeah, so there's no maligning of anybody, but it's setting itself up to fail, because it's almost like it's a group of volunteers, and they're being asked to undertake, supervise, manage, control, and execute authorized and funded building construction projects. So all of the projects in the town, this committee is supposed to do those things, to advise, consult, and, I mean, it goes on and on. If we all just read it, or if we read it on our own, we understand the scope of this committee, of what they're being asked to do. So I think that this committee made some great choices, like to add the bonding and the damages clause, all those things that might have been missed had that committee not been there. That's incredible. However, because of the scope of this ordinance, there were balls dropped. So I guess I was wanting to bring this up to talk about, should we disband the committee and start over? Or do we want to look at this ordinance and figure out how to narrow it? I don't know, that's kind of what my concerns are with it.
I think there's some great questions.
Yeah.
I think when you're talking about the responsibilities of the committee, I think we need to be cognizant of a couple things. One is the responsibilities cannot interfere with what the town operations by charter do. So for instance, and Randy can opine some more, when you're talking about undertaking, supervising, and managing on the first part of the responsibilities, when you go to the scope of the project, right, which is what they're really going to be looking at, they talk about prior to the authorization, the funds need to be done through the jurisdiction of the town council, Board of Finance, right, arm, and then also bonding, if we're going to bond the project. Another issue part of it is really the funding when it comes to this town hall roof, or when it comes to the high school roof. The funding comes in many different phases. We had money that we appropriated here as the town council body. We also bonded some of the money, and then we're getting a reimbursement from the state of Connecticut State Board of Education. So those funding sources, and Randy, correct me if I'm wrong, Municipal Building Committee has no jurisdiction at all. That's done through here. Now, when we get into the actual, the building itself, we hire through our purchasing authority, which supersedes anything that's on here. We hired a architect, which was Dean Petroselli. He's the one that came before us. He's done hundreds and hundreds of roofs, and he's the one that comes in, and he's the one that suggests scope of work, right? And then through the scope of work, the Municipal Building Committee then would opine and say, that scope of work seems reasonable, or maybe we tweak it a little bit, but we have someone who we've contracted to pay. That would be Dean Petroselli. So he would be taking on a lot of that scope of work that the Municipal Building Committee really doesn't take, so to speak. And then, go ahead, Randy, I'm sorry. No, I was going to say, then on top of that is talking about balls that were dropped, so to speak. That would have been dropped on any job, anywhere, when it comes to that. Because you're never going to have a person, whether it's a clerk of the works or whether it's an employee by the Board of Education or the town, that's going to sit there like this and watch somebody nail stuff into a roof. They're never going to do that. That's never going to happen. You pay for the service that's provided. If they can't handle that, then what happens is we let them go, we fire them. They have insurance that pays for mistakes that they would have made, which they did make. And the Municipal Building Committee, what their job basically is to do is to look at the project when it begins, then reassess through the architect of record, in this case, if we're talking about the high school roof, make any recommendations, and see the project through to fruition in tandem with Jack Healy, who's with our Public Works Director for the town. Then you have Matt Cunningham, who represents the Board of Education. They all meet all the time, and then they also let the superintendent and the Board of Education know, and they also let myself as the mayor and you, the town council. So to me, you have lots and lots of different layers that protect, but sometimes things are going to happen. That's just unfortunate as it is.
Right, so for example.
Could I make a comment?
I just wanted to go through the timeline. This B, section B, says the Municipal Building Committee shall submit progress reports to the Town Council and the Board of Finance. We never once got any of that. We never heard. So on December 2nd was the first fire.
What section B? I'm sorry, Hillary. I'm on the front
Scope of
page.
projects and
Under
reports.
scope? Okay, go ahead.
Scope of projects and reports. So this council never got a single report on any project that the Municipal Building Committee has been on. The entire time I've served on this committee, I've not seen a report. And particularly when we had 3 major incidents. So December 2nd, 2021, we had the first fire. We had $178,000 worth of work, cleanup work. We had a wood shop that was closed, not because of the fire, but as a result of the fire. And the Board of Ed was looking for ways to rectify that. Then we had the second incident of the dropped pipe on February 3rd of 2022. We again did not hear about that. We did not get a report. That's what I mean by balls dropped. They are not fulfilling this ordinance in terms of keeping this council abreast of what's going on with all of these different projects.
Okay.
In addition to that, I find that they're out of compliance with that, but they are working. It seems very random that some things have to go before the committee, but some things don't. Like Sullivan Farm roof isn't before it. The oil tank at the police station didn't go before the kitchen at the senior center. So it's not all jobs. So it seems a bit random of which jobs come under their purview. So that's confusing and not nailed down. And then the timeline that each job is required is also different. So Butterbrook Roof, they got the funding, right? Let me see. So Butterbrook Roof had to come to town council to get the ARPA funds. They got the ARPA funds, so they got the approval from the town council. Then they received quotes for the job. And then, once they received those quotes, we were gonna approve it again. And then it goes back to the Board of Finance, and then to a town meeting. And then it was gonna go before the municipal board committee, maybe in September. So that was laid out in the minutes. But the Board of Education came to get funding from here, and then go to Board of Finance, and then go to the municipal building committee. But we said no here, because they hadn't gone to the building committee. That was the reason that was used. So that's all gone away, because they've changed their mind. But I'm just saying, it seems like we're not following the same process for each job. So those are my concerns.
To answer a couple questions, and we can redefine how the council would like things. So reporting, I report to you monthly about things that are going on, just like I did again with the municipal building
You
committee.
didn't report these fires.
I absolutely reported the
In
fires.
the minutes of this town council?
I absolutely reported the fires under mayor's comments. I reported the fires here, absolutely.
Are those in the minutes?
I
Of
would
the
hope
town
they're in the
council?
minutes.
Yeah,
They
came up around this table.
We talked here. Matter of fact, I had Jack several times during the mayor's comments stand up and give more of an assessment.
Are you trying to say you weren't aware of the December 2nd fire?
I am. I'm saying it was not, I do not remember that being in the minutes.
Jack? Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. So I've during mayor comments, if it's easier for the council, I'd be more than happy to put it as an agenda item.
It says
And
a
make sure.
report. It says the municipal building committee shall submit progress reports to the town council and the Board of Finance.
Correct. And
If we want to change that, we change it, but that was not done. We did not get issued a report. Am I?
No, but I think what the mayor is saying is he's reporting on their behalf, and in his mayor's comments, he's reporting on their behalf. I don't want to put words in your mouth, Pete, but that's what he
absolutely.
said. Yes, yeah.
And-
Which to me is
I'm
fine.
gonna look up the minutes while somebody else sees, because I don't think so.
And then-
It says-
and then,
it's not in
uh,
the minutes.
And then moving on, Hillary, to some of the other questions, when we're talking about the senior kitchen, right now, that senior kitchen, we're not doing any work on there, because when it came back to a true cost of that, it was well over $1 million. So we don't have the funding for that, so it stopped. So there wasn't anything to bring up, as we're not doing anything. And then the demolition work that was required for the grant, we've been waiting for Loaves and Fishes to complete their move from the senior center over to their new facility. They've not been able to complete all the work yet, so we've kind of stopped on that. So there's really been nothing to report to, because it's been kind of a dead stop. We did have Tammy Reardon, our grant writer, get the approval from the state to continue with that grant that we have, because it expired. But we did get that, but right now we're just waiting to make sure, because the first we want to make sure is that Loaves and Fishes, who does feed some of our homeless, we make sure that they have their space. So that's kind of where we're on hold with that. When it comes to the roof over at Butterbrook, right now they've been looking at different, because of the pitches of the roofs and some of the patchwork that needs to get done, because that roof is going to need millions of dollars of new work. They're trying to figure out a way to make sure that it's patched with the funds that we did approve. And that funding came through American Relief Funding, as we all remember. And with American Relief Funding, it went to the town council, Board of Finance, and then a town meeting. That's the process that we do. Some of the funding that the Board of Education that you're talking about, those would come from different pockets of funding, which would require different ways of which we would come up with those monies. So for their looking at their wood shop, that would be coming out of their capital reserve, and that, as you've seen, they would request it from the town council and Board of Finance. It wouldn't go through that different, it would go through a different process, so to speak. And you're asking about how can some of the projects go through the municipal building committee comparative to other ones. I think it would just be the scope of work that you would be looking at comparative to other scopes of work. Something very detailed and integral, such as a roof at the high school with different layers, different elevations and costs, would be something that absolutely I would feel would go through the municipal building committee. A roof at Sullivan Farms, different pitch, that has hardly any different pitches, I don't think that would be a
Sort of
big
subjective,
thing.
yeah.
I also think even though the scope of work at Sarah Noble is much less, I think in that respect, you're using children's safety there. So I think, and the superintendent agreed, and so did the board, agreed that this would be something that at least the municipal building committee could hear. And speaking with the chairman of the municipal building committee, when we all met with the board and the superintendent, he felt that this would be a very quick process because there's not a lot of scope of work, but it's two different sets of eyes. But if we would like to kind of, it's up to your guys' choice. If you'd like to have it on as an agenda requested item, or continue on the way we're doing
So
it,
just to
then we're happy
clarify,
to do
because
it.
I want there to be facts on the table.
Absolutely.
So the meeting that came after the fire on December 2nd was December 13th. Okay, of 2021.
You mean the
Mayor's
council
comments.
meeting?
I'm sorry?
You're talking about the council meeting?
The town council meeting. So there is nothing in here. You thanked the VFW for hosting the breakfast for Santa. The Green Wave held a wrestling tournament. The mayor and the finance director are working on the budget. Finally, the mayor wishes everybody a Merry Christmas.
Okay, so Hillary, as you're asking me these questions, let me do my due diligence
Yes,
and find it
please.
for you.
Okay.
I absolutely know, we spoke about it. As a matter of fact, we invited at that meeting, to the next meeting, everybody to attend the Board of Education special meeting that we had at Scotticoke School, where as a partnership of both the town, right, Jack, remember that? And the Board of Ed, we had Matt Cunningham actually go ahead and give us the plans for that day as well. We informed the whole council. Were you there, Hillary? I think
Are you talking
might
about
have been
on
there.
the first fire or the second fire?
I'm talking about the second fire.
Oh, I'm talking about the first fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me,
First fire, and then the dropped pipe. Those are what I'm talking about. I
Okay.
haven't brought up the second fire. I think the whole town knew about it. Yeah.
and the second fire, can you pull up, are those in mayor comments?
Well, that we did talk about because it was.
I'm just trying to understand that you were saying a fire, so that's why I
The
was
first
saying.
fire
Okay.
and the pipe was not brought, because my whole point was, I think you had asked the question, would it have mattered if we had known? And the question is, you don't have an ordinance and law to not abide by it and then say, oh, you know, it wouldn't have made a difference really. Because who knows if it would have made a difference? This council might have said, they dropped a pipe down the ceiling and we might have come to a decision to fire that company. But we didn't have the opportunity. We didn't have the facts. That's why this is probably in here. But I don't know. That's what I'm saying. I think we need to analyze this. This was not done. So it's either got to be done because that's in the ordinance, or the ordinance has to be changed. And I do think it, so.
Okay.
Can I make a comment? I
Absolutely.
go back to one of the first things you said, Hillary, and I don't disagree with some of the things you brought up that, you know, might not have been minutes for every meeting. But when you look this and you said that this is such a large amount of work for a committee. This town council is 9 people. We have just as many, if not more, not important, but more permanent decisions are made here, right? And I think that maybe there's too many words, not maybe, I think there are too many words here, and I think that it could be tightened up. I don't know when this was first put together. Do you know, Mayor? Was it
It was right
2019?
after the,
2019.
right after the oil tank at
Yes,
the
right.
East
So,
School.
I don't disagree with that, but I think that when you read through things like this, any scope of work, et cetera, we have to take into consideration that it doesn't all happen at one time, just like ours.
But let me explain something. There was a point where they couldn't get a quorum and the bills were not getting paid. So I think Randy made a change so that Jack Healy could sign checks. Was it, do you remember that
What?
whole scenario?
Jack-
So the
no,
bonding,
he
the
doesn't-
bond rating that
He
we
doesn't-
all
Jack
love,
doesn't-
the
Jack-
bond rating.
No, wait.
Jack doesn't
that-
sign
No, he
checks.
doesn't sign any checks.
So that was not, that I'm making that up from the minutes? Okay, let me find it. I'll find it for you, because it was quite stunning. We talked about how the bond rating could be affected, and there was an FOI filed. Nobody remembers this?
I didn't draft this ordinance, first of all.
All right, I'll bring it up.
I didn't
I'll bring it
revise it either. It does need
Funny
revision.
how people don't.
Absolutely.
So-
You haven't asked about that, so.
So while you're
But
looking, Hillary.
one of the things, Hillary, that I just want to ask you, because as we're going to go forward and try to tighten this up or come to certain specifics, is that so many things that are in here required multiple stops along the way to be reviewed, and most all of these end up right here in front of us. And I will just say that I will agree that there are some things should be changed, but I also agree that at some point, the bottom line people, it's like having a town meeting to be the last place something goes and no one shows up. Something comes in front of us, we do show up and we do approve. And I think that we need to also look at how we, as the town council, review and accept things that come to us, not just from the building committee, but from other committees. Because we are relying on the people on the committees, just as we talked about opioids. So I think that if we're going to look at one committee or all committees, that we also need to look at this committee, this council, and how we, in other words, let's ask those questions before we get to the point like this, where, you know, you've got a yard's worth of questions. We should be more specific in asking when someone brings it to us. I'm not saying we don't, all the time, but I think that's an important point. We're the end of the line, right? We're the legislative body, so we all should, and all but one of us is here, we should realize that when something goes from this committee to that committee, and then it goes here, and it goes to a town meeting, all of that, we really should take stock in what we agree with.
Did you have something? I'm sorry.
No, I'm good for the moment. Let her.
Okay.
No, I'm done.
And lastly, I think we also need to take into context things too, right? So when you're talking about this particular project, like the library committee, big projects, we were in COVID, okay? So you're talking about volunteers. Most of these people are in the trade business. They run their own businesses. They're doing this for free. Okay? Well, I'm just saying. You were talking about sometimes they couldn't get a quorum. They couldn't get a quorum sometimes because they're trying to finish their jobs.
Right.
Because their people are out with COVID.
Right.
Their people aren't here.
So, Mayor, I think what I'm trying to say is this town needs this function.
Absolutely.
But is this committee serving you well? It's a question for you only. Do you want to pay somebody? You know, is there a position that should be created that does this? Because truly, a lot of the people on this committee are not municipal building, contractors. They have different experience. You know, some of them are in the road, the construction bridges and,
Sure.
In the town, and some people are developers, so there's a different, but the question for you is the committee serving you well? That's really it.
Perfect. And I'll answer that. Now, I know Jack wants to say something. I will take the 302 years of building experience that this committee has any day of the week.
Okay.
Any day of the week.
And when you build
Jack?
a committee, you want to diversify the committee. You don't want everybody in the same basket. You want
Design,
different people.
engineering,
Yeah.
and
So this way
hands-on
you get
building.
feedback from everybody. You don't
Jack?
want 10 carpenters and no roofers or electricians. You want everybody in diversified fields to come in to give their advice.
Just as a comparison, before I was here, I was in Berlin. They had something called the commission. In fact, that's why I'm sorry I stood up and Randy had asked if I knew of one. I served on one in Berlin. They had almost the identical organization. The ordinance is different than the ordinances here. As far as the function, it was almost every other Thursday I'd go to a meeting and we would talk about, at that point we had an $85 million school project when I was there, plus other projects that we were doing. In the municipal building committee, very similar to the one here. In fact, Dean's, it's ironic, Dean's firm was the one we were using in Berlin also. But very similar. They would meet, they'd give a report, the invoices would be reviewed, they'd be approved. I'd sign them again, so I get to sign a lot of Dean's invoices. We would pass them through, very similar to the one here. So just as comparison, it's just, they're very close. I'm used to working with, and they had very much the same makeup as far as a lot of the people on the one in Berlin were also contractors and had background in it. We had one different, they had a banker on that one, but other than that, they were all very similar. So just as a comparison, I think that, I'm used to working with that. In Litchfield, I was the chairman of a building committee, or actually multiple ones. And
Jack, did any of our invoices, I know that there was a lack of quorum one time, but did we ever not pay somebody? I mean, do we have a really outstanding
No, we paid them.
Problem?
It was the roof, this roof here.
Yeah, we paid them, yes.
Right, and did you sign any checks?
I don't sign checks.
I
sign
didn't think
invoices.
so. Okay, you just signed off on it, right, that's the process, yes.
I'm not sure the mayor would let me sign any checks.
No, but that's the
You
process.
tried once just to see if you could get away
You
with it.
signed off on
I
the
did, it's like my
invoice.
father, I just
That's
career
good.
past.
The invoice we want you to say you agree with, but you don't sign the check.
I don't sign the checks, no. I sign invoices, and typically the process is, the invoice comes to Dean. The most important part of this is that it goes to Dean, and Dean reviews the invoice. He does a pencil copy, the usual process that you would
That's right.
see, and then he makes a recommendation to the municipal building committee, and they, in their meeting, they would approve it. And then it would come to me, and I would, and then I'm the last signature, because technically, as the mayor said, you have to have somebody from the town sign the bill. So I would sign the invoice, and I present it to, to Greg Asapatopet.
And I'd invite.
Which is pretty standard in any business, really.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know, there is, and I did forward to Randy a copy of the commission in Berlin, just as comparison purposes.
And I invite all the town council members to come to the next municipal building committee
Yeah, you should.
and see for yourself. And like I said, if we want to tweak things, change things, I think we need to go to the committee itself. I'm there just about every meeting myself as well. And, yes, Chris?
I would say that, if we want to look at the ordinance, and especially if, Randy's experienced eyes, and Hillary, if you want to input anybody, I think we should definitely do it. I'm sure we could always make it better.
This ordinance is too broad. The problem is not the basis of it. The basis of this is a lot like the
It's the
Berlin.
writing.
Right.
Much of it. The problem is section 2-144. That provision is at war with itself.
Yep,
And it's at war with our purchasing ordinance, just to let you know.
right.
So I think that's what needs to be addressed. As a matter of fact, the building committee has no jurisdiction unless the town council sends it to them. So this could be a $20 million project unless the town council sends it to them. That's a request of town council. They don't have any jurisdiction over it to manage control. It's also, it says that they undertake construction? I don't think so.
No.
Right.
Wrong word.
Supervise? How are they gonna
So who
supervise?
wrote this, Randy?
I don't know. I have no idea where it came from. I didn't write it. The rest of it's fine. You
Yeah,
can work with the rest of
right.
it. But the scope, the responsibilities is really an outlier.
right.
I would have never drafted that way.
The other thing that I
And then
would
Mary
add,
Jane?
one thing that I'm opposed to and adamantly
Okay,
opposed to is, I think Councilwoman Thomas had mentioned a couple meetings ago that she was looking to get municipal building committee to come in and report to us on a regular basis. And to me, asking any volunteer committee to come and spend their nights in these meetings, special circumstances aside, absolutely, but regularly, these people are giving of their time and their talents in their committee meetings. They don't need to sit out here once a month or once every couple months to report to us. You can submit anything in writing, and you give us the reports. That's plenty for me.
Mary Jane?
Actually, I think when you were first elected, didn't we have the various boards coming in and giving us reports? I think
We
that
had
was-
department heads.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Right, paid.
Paid people?
What's that?
You said paid people.
Yeah, we had
Not
department
volunteers.
heads come in.
Well, somebody from, Jack come in.
Yeah.
Was any consideration ever given to hiring an engineer that specializes in municipal building instead of having a committee?
And an engineer on the town? You mean on the towns?
We have engineers.
You mean employed by the town?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's
So
a thought.
what's great about the way we're doing it now is when we contract an engineering company, say Dean Petroselli, right? So Dean Petroselli, will use that example. He's done 500 roofs. If we were to hire somebody here that's done 500 roofs, we'd be paying them a ton of money. Also,
No, I'm not
within the-
saying that. I'm saying instead of, possibly instead of having this building committee, because of exactly what Randy just said, hiring somebody who has expertise and this is their area, and instead of asking all these people to come in and
So, just so I
it's
understand.
just a suggestion.
No, Mary Jane, I'm
you
just
know.
trying to to understand the premise. So,
A
say you
salaried
have
position.
say you have a position, so within that position, would we have a clerk of the works that would be doing roofs? Because now we have 2 more roofs that we have to do, which would be Hill and Plain and would be Northville. So we have somebody that would have that experience. Now, we're also gonna be looking to do the senior kitchen, totally different thing. So would we hire another person on the town with the experience
No,
of
I'm
doing
talking
that
about one
renovation work?
person.
What's that?
I'm talking about one
Okay.
person that's got
So,
the
just to-
education and
Right,
expertise.
so just to
do
me,
it.
I would rather hire the person with extreme expertise, like a Dean Petroselli, his firm, because that's what they do
But he
all the
wasn't
time.
working for the town.
He
He
does
was
work-
working for himself. He was working for his firm. We didn't have a representation depending our.
Jack, we do, absolutely.
Ooh, like that's what, the clerk of the
Jack,
works.
could you
we-
come up
We
please
would have
for
hired a
some-
clerk of the works who would have been protecting our interest. Dean Prentice-Strelli protects his interest.
Jack, can you give a clarification for everybody? In this particular job for the Milford High School roof, who does Petroselli and Associates, being Dean Petroselli, work for?
He works for the town, he works for,
No.
he works for the town. Yeah.
Correct.
It's a town project.
Well, he was hired by the town. He's
works
He's not as a clerk of the works, but as an architect, not as a clerk of the works, right? So it's not, like, he's not protecting your
Randy
interest.
works for the town, and he's not a town employee. He's contracted by the town.
Jack,
He represents our interests.
just for the edification of the council and those that are watching tonight,
So he has a business.
so a clerk of the works does what?
Clerk of the Works is there watching the project and just expediting the project and signing invoices and keeping notes of the meetings and making sure things progress.
Right.
And then Jack, on this
Following
current
spec.
job that we have, which is the Milford High School roof, how many people that are performing the same function as a clerk of the works would, how many people are there representing the town of New Milford?
Okay, the way that the contract is written, Garland has a representative there doing daily inspections, Steve Otello. He meets on
That's-
Thursday with us.
That's one.
From the town standpoint, I attend the meetings, and I sign invoices, I'm involved.
You're talking about a meeting, not at the job.
Jack,
Steve is on the roof.
Jack, can you explain to Councilwoman Ram, right, that the functions that you're talking about are the functions of a clerk of the works?
Many of them are, yeah. That's what we,
The original, what's the origin of the clerk of works?
He just,
The origin, way long ago, when the term was even coined, it's because they used to want to stop theft on the job. So there was someone watching every worker, every move. That was a clerk of the work. So the reason you hire a clerk of the work is you're going to protect your own interests and make sure nobody does anything that hurts your interests. That's what a clerk of the works is. I mean, how do you know more? Tell me, Chris, what is a clerk of the works? That is exactly why one hires a clerk of the works, so that they're
They watch every worker? Is that what you think?
Is
Is that really what you think? They watch every worker?
The clerk of the works are usually to check.
Jack,
You know what?
Gotta be
I'm
kidding.
done with it.
Jack, the clerk of the works, right? Their function, right, is not to watch every employee.
Okay.
That's why the contractor themselves has a supervisor.
Correct.
Right?
I served as a clerk of the works in 1979. Now, there was a building in Waterbury we were doing renovation on. I would never tell you that I watched every single person, every moment, every day. I did keep track of who was there, number of people were there, making sure things got done, making sure things were done on time.
And that there weren't any mistakes.
Yeah.
Well, you always try to do that, yeah.
Right.
And I would say, that the people who were involved in this project were looking to make sure there were no mistakes. Steve Botello, he is with Garland. He has instructions. He's involved the entire time, looking at drawings, making sure that they have the proper drawings in place. Dean Petroselli is there every week. He goes through with them. He sees every correspondence. He goes over instructions on them.
Checks against the specifications, checks the
checks with that.
shortlist, checks what's on the drawing, checks what's in the written.
The-
That's
the
part of
princi-
what a clerk of the work does.
The principal's at the meetings, he
I
is
know
making
that.
sure there's an interaction between the contractor, who has a representative there, and Dean,
That's right.
and Garland, and myself, and Matt, to make sure that we try to coordinate the activities so that we don't do work over top of over a classroom, you know. And you would, if you saw the daily emails and texts, you know, there's a lot of correspondence, a lot of dialogue that's going on every day, because unfortunately, you tell a contractor, don't hammer on that roof today because they have testing, and he does. We move it, they move them there. But I mean, this is going on every day. The texts are going on every day. Matt, we each had our function in what we were doing there. Matt was there every day. Matt's on the ground there, and he would contact us on if there's a question during the day. So that function was being done.
Mm-hmm.
It just, there may be a different function. And rather than having one person, you had multiple people doing it.
Can we move forward on this, Pete? I think we can.
And the parliamentarian could keep it in the house too.
I just wanted to say that one of the issues that now has come up is not enough tabs to hold the 40% of the roof, and that's going to have to be fixed. That may have been something someone might have seen, potentially. And the other is, they were preparing in July to do hot work on the roof when they weren't supposed to be doing hot work on the roof. I would imagine on the ground, people were prepping materials to do hot work on the roof. So how did that happen? That's all I'm going to say about that. Now, I don't need to be answered. That's my opinion. Mr. Mayor, you had said a few things tonight about not reporting on things because nothing's happening on a few projects for different reasons. There's the kitchen at the senior center, et cetera. That's just as important for people to know, in my mind, that things may not be moving even though they have been approved for whatever reason, because it's important for people to understand they're looking forward to roofs at Butterbrook or kitchen at senior center. I think it's just as important for people to hear from you, maybe as part of your report once a month, to say, this project was approved, we're not moving on it because of this, because that's just as important to me for people to hear rather than not hear anything. That's all.
Did you not mention just today, in the last meeting and the meeting before that, there are many of us who sit here that we know exactly, you tell us exactly what's happening with roads, with things like the kitchen, the roof. What was one of the things you just mentioned that you bring it up all the time, the 400 and some units that are approved to be built, and how many of those would be affordable housing, and all the things that are coming. And I think maybe we should just make sure that that's in a list and gets into the minutes, so
Right,
that it's...
because that's what people look at.
Right, and that way everyone could see every single itemized item.
Right.
How about that?
All right, Mary Jane?
All right, so going forward, what are we gonna do? We're gonna look at this, and we're gonna make changes to it, and Randy's gonna help us with this
So I think-
very
I
broad
think Mary Jane,
responsibilities.
Randy had made a point that he feels there's some verbiage here that contradicts the charter and purchasing authority, so we definitely need to clean that up for sure.
Absolutely.
And then we need to opine as a council, as if there's anything else that the council may feel.
I'd like to make a suggestion.
Tell me what you want me to do.
I'd like to make a suggestion to Attorney DeBella. As a member of the Municipal Building Committee, I think that to do anything without having the Municipal Building Committee be part of the discussion is really sort of backwards. So how about...
I need some guidance here.
Yes, I understand. That's what I'm saying, is that to have a council and you look at something without including the people who are responsible for this and have been working with this document, I'd like to say is, why doesn't Attorney Bella come to one of our municipal building committee meetings and discuss this 2.144 section in particular, so we are not opposing or cross purposes with other ordinances? Because, that'd be like asking someone to discuss what happens with the town council and how we should have our meetings and never have anybody from the council there. So I think that we should bring it to the people.
I think this is the legislative body of the town, though, and we should come come up with what this body
Right,
wants
but can't the
from
discussion
them.
start with the people
I agree
who
with
do
you,
it?
but I'm just saying, it's not for them to decide what type of
They're not gonna-
reporting
Hillary-
we want from them. That's the point. You know what I'm
Hillary,
saying? I'm just saying.
we have a town attorney.
Yeah.
I'm just one member.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of them, right? Everybody's got their own opinion about things. But I think to talk about changing something that's been in effect since 2019,
Which is not very
and
long.
realizing
And
that
done-
there are some things that should be tightened up
Major
and some places
fall.
of cross purpose, why would you do that? That's like telling the Department of Public Works how they ought to buy a backhoe. I mean, you have to have this
We
particular
create
body
the
involved.
committees, we create the committees. This body creates the committees. We
Right.
just created one tonight, two tonight.
Okay,
And we talked
well-
about how it should be and how it should operate, how many people
I-
should be on it. We should analyze, is this working well? Why not? Do we want it to stay the same? And then Randy can write it, and you can certainly get input from the committee,
Well,
but
that'd
this
be
is
nice.
the body where this should be written.
Yes, Andy?
Can I make a
Randy?
suggestion? I've been writing a lot of ordinances over the past 4 decades.
I know.
And what I would suggest is that I could do an outline for the town council. Town council, say, here's what I think needs to be approached. I will need to talk to the municipal building committee as far as operationally, can they get this done? They were not consulted. I'm telling you, when it says they're to undertake the project.
Right.
Right, that A,
So-
word A, to me.
That's right.
Yeah.
Is
So-
the key phrase that's gotta be struck.
Yeah.
from this.
Somebody wrote this without the input of, the municipal building committee didn't write
Of course
this.
not.
Right, they
So
thought it
I'm saying is,
This was
why
lifted
do
from
that?
another
And
time.
why should we do that again, Randy? Why should we
I agree.
take this?
So I should give you an outline as to what I think should be
Well, how's
addressed.
this for an idea? How about if we have a special meeting where we have the town council and we have the municipal building committee? We have committees meet together all the time. Maybe they won't all show up, but the point being is that why would you do something? Now, we've had this long discussion going on, and admittedly, people are not happy with the way things are handled. So why don't we bring in the people who have to abide by this? I don't think
So I
there's
just have
anything
a-
crazy
just
about
one
that.
question About legality.
And if you're a member of this committee, you're undertaking supervising, managing, controlling, and executing. Like, that's a lot of responsibility. And
It's
yeah,
undoable.
and
It's
and
undoable.
legally, I would think that the town could be liable.
But the town council approved this, and the municipal building committee probably never saw it.
Well, they should see it, because they should know.
But they didn't have, they weren't involved in
They've never
creating
seen
it.
this?
But
I'm
the
sure they've
interesting part
seen it.
is they've never done that.
That's true.
Okay, you could put it as the responsibility, but if you haven't used that responsibility under A, which is where I find fault here, then you're not culpable for anything. If you're
So-
not supervising or managing it, what
Get it
really-
out of there,
listen,
then. Get it
listen,
out of
The reality
there.
of, Mary Jane, you were here at the very beginning when this
agreeing.
conversation came up when I first came on here. We had a series of projects that did not have the expertise, the broad expertise to execute them well. The last one was obviously
That's why
the
you hire
debacle at
somebody.
the oil tank, which really pushed us, can I finish? Which really kind of pushed us over the edge. But the reality here is, no one person can look at all of these and give a broad stroke opinion based on experience of actually building it. You're talking about hiring an engineer. I hire a lot of engineers, but they do not have the expertise in actually building it. They're great on putting lines on paper and saying, this has got to go here. Now you as the contractor have to go figure that out. And what's called in that, they give us a preliminary plan, then we have to come up with actual working drawings and shop drawings to execute the project. No engineer I've met in New York City, some of the biggest engineers in the world, execute that well, because they don't actually have the physical hands in the field to understand what that project looks like and how to execute
I'm
it from
just
a physical
thinking, all
standpoint.
I'm saying, Tom, is that I think you are asking these people to be put in a libelous position, basically.
And I agree with you, Mary
And
Jane, I don't
guess
disagree.
Maybe
A
they're
libel
covered by the
statement here is-
town
They're violent
liability-wise.
agreement.
So-
you know?
A is the
Chris?
libel statement here.
So-
A is the problem.
Yeah,
That's
totally.
it. You strike that, the rest
Take
of
the
it
whole thing
works.
out.
Okay,
All in agreement.
Chris, then Hillary, do you have something?
No, I'm just
Okay.
saying we are.
Chris?
We're in agreement.
I think we're in vehement agreement here.
That's what I just said,
that we need
violent
to-
agreement, that's us.
That we need to
Right.
revise the ordinance. But here's the deal. The committees we're creating don't have committee members yet. That probably happened to this committee, right? This was developed by somebody, approved by council,
Right.
before it had any members. We now have members who have experience, done many projects. It would be really poor leadership on our part not to get their input on
Of course,
revising
get their
this.
input. Sure,
So,
go for it. Of course.
And I don't know that we have to have a joint meeting, because again, I don't want to pull these people in on another meeting, but I trust our attorney to get their input, bring back to council a better ordinance, and we vote on it.
I
And in
think
terms
that-
of,
That you would do that?
I think we've got 302 years' experience, from what I heard. To hire one person to replace that, I don't know how we get that on a job application, to replace the experience that these people are giving us for free.
I know, but
So
it's-
we would
And-
be
A lot of
idiots
it's home
to
building, it's not
back away from
municipal
that.
building.
And-
Big schools and big roofs and.
They've got, as Doug said, a diversity of experience, and we need that because we have a diversity of projects, and they're great.
And lastly, just because some things have been said here, and I just want to make sure they're clarified to both the town council, the public, and those watching on TV. We have not violated anything when it came to how we purchase the goods, to our purchasing authority, how we have ran the projects, which is per our charter. Now, this violates it, but we didn't do what that said.
That's right.
Jack, can you just, as our Public Works Director, can you come up here just so we can make sure we have it on the record, please, Jack? We have it on the record, and we have it on film, that we are following the proper procedures per our purchasing authority, through our town ordinances, when it pertains to the function of construction and job work.
Absolutely. We go, you have the ordinances, we have gone out, and in order to get the reimbursement from the state, you have to follow that's one of the first things you have to do, is you have to follow your purchasing guidelines. The town did that. They went out to bid, we went through that, they wrote the specifications, they hired an architect, the architect meets the requirements, he wrote specifications, we've gone out to bid. The bids were received, they were analyzed, there was a debate at the building committee, they made a recommendation, that recommendation came back to the purchasing authority, they approved that recommendation, the contracts were written, they were reviewed by council before they were signed, before the contract was signed. Once the project started, the reports are given to the municipal building committee regularly. All of the invoices, all that goes through the proper channel. Dean gives a report, very, very long report, every meeting about where we stand.
That's right.
He makes sure all of the invoices are checked. If you hear him, he talks about pencil copies, and then he approves them, he gives them to the building committee. They approve them. They cannot sign, the building committee chairman signs them, but it still cannot be paid. It has to go to a town employee. I'm the town employee.
And so just.
And Jack, those things are discussed, I'm saying there.
Oh, yeah, they're
We
discussed.
Hang on one
discuss
second,
it, it's
Katie.
not just signed off.
Hang on one second. So just want to make sure we're all clear. Responsibilities that are here. Do they supervise anybody?
No.
Okay, thank you. Do they manage anybody?
No.
Thank you. Do they control or execute authorized funded building construction?
Well, they pay the bills and they make sure, yeah.
Right. But that then goes to who? Who pays it?
The town pays it.
Right.
Yeah.
And the town goes through what function?
The board, the finance, the department of
Right,
finance.
like we do with every other project.
Yeah.
So the point that I'm trying to get to in this couple of minute exercise is that we follow the right procedures.
Absolutely.
This may say something that deviates from the charter, but we follow the right process.
We absolutely follow the process.
However, I do think it's important to state, because that sounds like everything was done properly. This ordinance was not followed. So that is just, I'm just making a delineation because it's important.
Right.
It's important.
Was this part of the charter revision?
So
No.
we did not get reports. We did not.
Well, we're gonna agree to
Said
disagree with
records
that.
shall be maintained in the office of the town clerk and shall be available for the public inspection. That did not happen. We did not get reports. So this ordinance was not followed. I understand what you're saying. The procedures for purchasing and the procedures for, paying checks or whatever were followed properly according to our charter. But this ordinance was not followed. That's a delineation.
When it comes to the reports, we'll agree to disagree.
Well, what do you mean? This was
You
not
just said that we didn't give reports.
to the town council.
I
And
give reports every month.
I've just read you back the minutes. There was not a single report about the drop pipe or the first
Well-
fire.
July 11th minutes.
No, I did, second fire. That's the second fire.
2022?
Yes, that's the second fire.
Okay.
Okay.
Let me go and find those. You made a point. Let me go and check the minutes and find those out.
We beat
Okay.
it to death, but he just then told something that pulled the rug out from our entire conversation, so I had to state the fact. That's it.
Hey, guys, I hate to say this, but it's
Okay,
10
it's
to
10
10.
to
We
10,
have
Yep.
half a dozen people here waiting to give
All
us
right.
a report on executive
So we're gonna have
session.
Randy come back to us with some recommendations, especially with 2-144.
Hey, it's a big
Great.
splash.
All
All
right,
right, so then
All right,
this
next.
discussion will be continued next meeting.
absolutely.
Okay, so now I'd like to move to executive session and like to invite Attorney DeBella, Attorney Taylor, Greg Bolero, Jack Healy, and Greg Asapow to discussion on the Teamsters contract.
Second?
And Dan Calhoun, Mike Boucher.
Motion to go into executive session.
All
Yes,
those in
we have.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay.
Okay. I'd like to move that we return into regular session and make a note that during executive session, no motions were made and no votes were taken.
All in favor?
I second.
Thank you, Chris. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions?
I'd also like to make note that it is 10 o'clock and we need to have a vote to continue our meeting past 10.
Second.
Aye.
All those in favor of the motion
Yeah,
to,
just-
can we say for 15 minutes?
Yes, 15 minutes, 10:15.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Next.
Okay. I'd like to move that we approve the ratification of the Teamsters contract for local union 443.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you.
Got a second deeper
All those in
voice.
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, everybody. Thank you.